Traffic. Yes, just let me know how I can support you.
Oh, no, you got to be a part of it. Yeah.
No, I would love that.
You
I
got
would
to be.
love that.
Oh, no, it's going to be fun. I was talking to my mother about it. But, I'll tell you more offline because I'm still fleshing it out.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I
awesome.
was, because I want to begin to get my people together regularly. Should I say on a regular basis? You know, it's important.
Well, count me in. You know, you only have to ask. Count me in.
Oh, girl, absolutely. Because I think that there's some things that we need to do to, one of the things I was praying about when you reached out to me was, just what women need to hear nowadays. Oh, yeah. Because I think that there's so many things that we're missing.
Credit card bills, you have a right to settle that debt.
Oh, yeah,
Less than
for sure.
We are
And
Greenwise
we need
Debt
to
Relief.
really
We
talk about
specialize
that
in
and
saving
begin
people
to
just like you thousands of dollars
just
off
really,
their credit
I'm
card
coming to New
balance.
York
If
on
you want to put more
Sunday.
money in
Oh
your
my
pocket,
gosh.
call us for free information now.
Oh my gosh, and I'm how long you gonna be here?
Get out. Oh my gosh. I just found out.
Tom Hartman. What is the positive message
Yes. Okay. I'll be there until Tuesday.
Republicans should be 100%
Through
focused
Tuesday.
on Democrats.
Okay, so all right, so then I gotta figure this out. Okay.
1 minute. Pressed, well, what you tell us at least.
So
McConnell said words to the effect of, well, when we get power again, we'll let you know.
Right. The
Tom Hartman
radio program.
Girl, I can't. I hope I can see you while I'm there.
Where facts matter.
I hope so.
And WCPT is proud to support labor unions and the hardworking middle class. With our
30.
Join me as I welcome respected labor leaders to my show. Foreign events,
So I
local and
look
national
forward
politics,
to
and
seeing you
how
while I'm
labor unions
there.
are more relevant
If
today
not,
than ever.
I'm going to be back
Sponsored by
because I'm
Smart
going to
Local
be doing a lot more
265, IBEW Local
outdoors,
176,
outside.
pushing
15.
I can only hear the radio.
Learn
Oh
more
yeah,
at
I know.
WCPTA20.com.
I know. Well, I'll call. Let's talk after the show if you can.
Facts matter.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm so excited.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. A joy to be with you today. Another day that the Lord has made. March 18th, 2022. I'm so glad to be with you today on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. How are you? Hope that you're doing well. Hope that you're getting ready for a fabulous weekend. I know I am, although I will be working straight through it. I'm going to have some good times too. We're going to talk about Brittany Griner. I wanted to get find out more about the story before I really talked about it. We're going to have a tremendous panel, including one of our former colleagues here at WCPT, Jerry Riles, who's going to be talking to us, and attorney C.K. Hoffler, and a whole panel of lawyers to help us to really take apart what's happening there. Newsweek called her a hostage. That's really not true, but they have laws. Apparently, she broke them, and she is being held in detention. She's not a hostage, but she is overseas in a country with which we have hostilities, and that makes it tough. It really does. We're going to be talking also about really just the world is united. They say about Ukraine. That's not exactly true. America is divided about it. And so is the global South, so is Africa, so is Asia. There's a whole lot that we need to take apart. But as we are fighting for democracy there, what about democracy here? What about the Voting Rights Act? What about the Voting Rights Executive Order to secure our voting rights? Should we fight harder in Ukraine for democracy than we fight for it over here? What about pushing for our voting rights and pushing for democracy here? want to talk with you about that. And of course, Dr. D, Dwight McKee, on the Santita Jackson Show. And what about the fourth COVID-19 shot? It may protect you against symptoms, but not infection. So what does that mean? People keep saying that. No, whether you get sick or not, you don't want COVID because it can have permanent damage. Can't wait to talk with Dr. Deborah Holden and Dr. Shanita Knighton about that. In the meantime, let's get to some of these headlines so we can get some good news from Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I'm so glad to have her back in the house. Chicago, we're going to have a high of 44 degrees and rain today. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 47 degrees, mostly cloudy. The Bulls will be playing the Suns tonight in the NBA, and it is March Madness time, everybody. Kansas upset They didn't upset them, but they sure did win against Texas Southern, 83-56. Murray State over San Francisco, 92-87. Baylor, no surprise there, but I'm still pulling for my HBCUs. Love you, Norfolk State. Baylor, 85, Norfolk State, 49. And Memphis, Penny Hardaway's new school, 64. Boise State 53. Everybody continue. Have you filled out your brackets? I never do that. I never, ever do, but so many people do. And have your brackets been upset? A lot of people have had them upset. Ukraine, everybody. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is showing no signs of letting up, with at least one Russian missile striking a city in Ukraine, less than 50 miles from the Polish border. Elsewhere in Ukraine, the city of Mariupol is under siege and suffering 50 to 100 attacks daily, according to CNN and its city council. Casualties were also reported in Kiev today after debris from a downed rocket sparked a fire at a residential building. And on it goes. Ukraine and Russia are negotiating. They have 15 points that they would like to resolve. We will see how this works, everybody. A 13-year-old boy was behind the wheel of a pickup truck involved in a head-on collision in Texas that killed 9 people, including 6 University of Southwest golfers and their coach. A National Transportation Safety Board official said yesterday the crash occurred after the college students were returning home from a golf tournament. 2 survivors of the crash. Both students are still hospitalized. Preliminary reports indicate a spare tire on the pickup truck failed, causing the vehicle to pull into oncoming traffic on a 2-lane highway. Praying for all of those families. Did you see this pretty remarkable, well, I guess it was really a speech that Arnold Schwarzenegger gave to the people of Russia. He said, I don't want you to be broken like my father. Now, many of you might not know, but Arnold Schwarzenegger's father was a Nazi. And so he said, I don't want you to be broken like my father. I'm sending this message to various different channels to reach my dear Russian friends and the Russian soldiers serving in Ukraine. It was a 9-minute address, everybody. I'm speaking to you today because there are things that are going on in the world that have been kept from you, terrible things that you should know about. Let me tell you the truth about war in Ukraine. It's very, very interesting. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of, I just heard it on television this morning, of only about 22 people that Vladimir Putin follows. So he is someone that Vladimir Putin admires a great deal, and yet he's giving these messages countering him in his efforts in the Ukraine. The Biden administration is preparing for the potential of mass migration to the U.S.-Mexican border. When a Trump-era pandemic emergency rule ends, the influx is expected because officials are considering the possibility of terminating a public health order known as Title 42, which border authorities have relied on to turn away migrants. Sources familiar with the discussion said internal documents, first reported by Axios, estimate around 170,000 people may be coming to the U.S. border, and some 25,000 migrants are already in shelters in Mexico. The Department of Homeland Security has asked Department of Personnel to volunteer at the Mexico border in response. Do you know what happened to the Haitians that were being flown back to Haiti? Have we found out about that yet? Okay. Only about 1.7 million people in the United States, less than 1% of the total population, live in counties where the CDC still recommends universal indoor masking. While this is a positive step toward normalcy, scientists are paying close attention to the uptick in COVID-19 cases in Europe and Asia as a possible indicator of what could happen in the United States, particularly as we see that the fourth COVID-19 vaccine shot, may protect you against symptoms but not infection. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, we have missed you, my dear sister. So glad that you're back.
So glad to be back. Thank you so much. It's so great to hear your voice and to be back on the show.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
It's exciting. It's exciting to hear your voice. Oh boy, so Bill, what is going on with you today? What is the good news? We need it.
What is the good news? So I just got back from Morocco, and one of my favorite places on the planet for sure. Anytime I can get to Africa, it's like a balm to my soul. Only this time, I hosted a women's retreat, 26 women over 2 weeks, and it was fantastic. So many breakthroughs, so much freedom, so much joy, and it was super exciting. But one of the things that I love most about Morocco, more specifically Marrakesh, is Morocco is famous for its doors. Wherever you go, you see doors. The building could be dilapidated, but the door is extraordinary. And so one of the exercises that I did with the women was have them examine the doors as they went about their day throughout Marrakesh. What does the door mean? Is the door open for you in your life? Are doors closing in your life? What's on the other side of the door? Is there just the door frame and the middle is missing? Maybe you're the missing piece in the door. And so as we examine these doors, I could that we find in the gospel where we're encouraged to knock and the door will be opened unto you. That's really what I want to encourage someone to know today. Then in the Gospel of Matthew 7, knock and the door will be open for you. So many people want to know why God is not moving in their lives. So many people want to know why doors haven't opened. My question for you today is, are you knocking? God is ready, willing, and available to answer your prayers and bless you, but are you knocking on the door? One of our tours, we have this amazing tour guide who is a historian in Moroccan history. And one of the things that he helped us to realize was on some of the doors, what you'll see is you'll see two knockers. There'll be a large knocker on the top and a smaller knocker on the bottom. The smaller knocker on the bottom is for the family, for the mother, the children, informal guests. Those people will knock on the door in order to have access into the home of the person. But that higher knocker, that larger knocker, I found, Santita, is the father's knock. That knock is specifically used by the father of the house to make sure everyone is ready when he knocks on the door, to make sure if he's bringing dignitaries and guests, his wife is presentable. So while the smaller knock may have a tinny sound, the larger knock has a heavier sound. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the father's knock is different than everybody else's. How many people know that doors work both ways? You go in and you come out. And so perhaps even while you're hesitant to knock, I want you to know today that the Father is knocking on your door. Do you know the sound of the Father's knock? It's a little deeper. It's a little weightier. It means more. And so I believe that God is calling us today to listen for the Father's knock. There's something special for you on the other side of the door. One of the women that I traveled with, we noticed that there was some sort of issue with the rooms. Everyone was supposed to have equal rooms. We stayed at a 5-star resort just on the outskirts of Marrakesh, a beautiful place that's called actually the Palais, meaning palace. And we wanted all of these women to feel like queens. And so what we learned was that some of the women didn't have the room they were supposed to have. While they were supposed to have access to a junior suite, they actually had lesser rooms. So certainly when I found this out, I wanted to fix the situation. And one of the women had already unpacked her things. She was already settled. And she said, Tish, no, don't worry about it. I don't want to move. You know how I am with my things. Everything is in order. My jewelry is in the safe. I've already settled in. I love my room and I don't need to move. And I said, but what you don't understand is I'm trying to give you access to what you deserve. Not what you want, but what you deserve. Well, after we went back and forth, she finally opened the door to the other side of her room. And what was open to her was a full suite with fresh fruit, fresh flowers, all sorts of goodies, a pool of her own, her whole balcony. She had lounge chairs and chaise chairs, all of this luxury at her disposal, but she didn't want to open the door. What she told stuff, it's not that God is denying you access to great things. Perhaps it's you denying yourself. So I just want to encourage somebody this morning to tell you there's greatness on the other side of the door if you would have the courage to but knock. And that's the good news.
God bless you. Ooh, I love that. I love that. I love that. That is what I needed to hear today. Ooh, how many of the blessings have you missed? Because you refused to move your stuff. Or you just wanted to be that bag lady, Erica Badu. What? Just your stuff.
And she told me later, she said, Tish, she said, I didn't realize what you were trying to give me access to. And I told her, I said, sis, that's a metaphor for life. Mm-hmm. God is trying to give you access to something greater, but you keep holding on to the familiar.
Until it's become familial and you are a mess. Thank you for that. We become family with our troubles, and we have got to stop that. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, how can we worship with you?
You can worship with me every Sunday via YouTube and on our Facebook platform, the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'd love to have you.
Oh, my goodness. Everybody be blessed, and you be blessed. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I'm sending you so much love, my dear sister. And I'm so glad that you're back home safe and sound. Amen to that. Amen. Love it. Bag ladies. Come on, y'all. Dr. Deborah Furholden, epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University School of Medicine, and the infection preventionist, the woman who makes us all feel like, I haven't quite gotten this right. I don't even know how to wash my hands. Registered nurse, research scholar, and of course, PhD, Dr. Shanina Knighton at Hey, Dr. Nina, that's her handle. It's a joy to be with you all this morning. You know what? We had Dr. Fauci saying, we're not done with this yet, Dr. Deb. This is just what you've been saying. And then we're finding out that a dose, this fourth dose of the COVID-19 vaccine shot may protect us against symptoms, but not infection. Now, I need you to help me with this, because I thought that, while we don't want to be symptomatic, we don't want COVID, because COVID itself, we still don't know the effects. A lot of people have a lot of effects, long COVID, and I have a friend who's wearing a defibrillator because of the damage that COVID did to her heart, and she's not alone. Should we be concerned about that? That the shot may protect you against symptoms, but not infection?
Well, it's a couple things. What makes this virus so different than SARS-CoV-1 and then a lot of other viruses that we've had in the past is the fact that so many people, independent of the vaccine or not, were asymptomatic. And it really doesn't, if there was no real rhyme or reason. But it's estimated about half of the cases are symptomatic or have symptoms that they don't recognize as COVID. Because if you're asymptomatic or if you don't even know you have it, you're more likely to spread it, right?
Yeah.
If you know you had it and you say, I don't care, I got to go to the grocery store, I got to blah, 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 you would probably be very cautious. If you don't know you have it, it just changes your behavior, right? So not having symptoms, actually, I know has contributed to spread. And so many people being asymptomatic or symptoms that they don't recognize as COVID. It is good, however, what the vaccine does, because basically what the vaccine does is it's stopping the virus from replicating as much as it would and really wreaking havoc in your body. And that's a good thing. And they don't quite understand why, but people who've had some long COVID symptoms, some of them have gotten resolution or improvement in those symptoms after getting vaccinated. So just imagine if the virus is going to come in your body and just wreak havoc. Would you rather it, wreak a little teeny bit of havoc or a whole lot of havoc?
Well, a little teeny bit of havoc, but I also don't want to spread it. See, I also don't want to spread it, and I think that's the other side of that is what people are missing. Because once they've gotten the shots, they feel that they've been inoculated and, they're safe, and they don't think that they can spread it or, and that's that. And I'm like, no, you can still spread this. And in fact, you make me more nervous because you more than likely will be asymptomatic. You might think you have a little cold or something like that, scratch your throat, whatever, whatever. These are the things that concern me now, particularly as we are opening back up. And Dr. Fauci said, look, he expects a surge in the spring, which is where we are now. He expects that to happen.
Dr. Fauci.
Yeah,
How
girl,
you
I'm
gonna
just
come out
telling.
and say that after everybody else in already said it? Dr. Fauci. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny.
I'm not gonna say any more
My
to you.
brothers and sisters on the other side just love to take the things that we've already said. I think they just think it sounds better coming out of their mouth or something.
Well,
But it's very disappointing because he is reacting and responding to things. He's not, in my opinion, leading. He's not out here giving us what we need in advance. He came out a couple days after the Washington Post, like, come on, Dr. Fauci.
Bless his face, girl. He's doing the best he can.
But here's what's crazy. So watch this. Even with what he said, which is true. And mind you, I didn't even have to do I didn't even have to go into all of that. I'm like, it's happening there. We're next. Like that. That's just how the trends have gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they point to these three specific things that this Omicron subvariant has now become transmissible. That we're re-engaging and things are reopening, and people are getting rid of layers of protection, and that this one layer of protection, the vaccine or immunity induced by infection, we're seeing that wane. Now, waning immunity, you can't help that, right? If you get COVID, and I had COVID right after Thanksgiving, my immunity wanes. It is what it is. But I did get my booster shot in February. So individuals have something in their hands that they can do. You can get your booster shot, which will boost your immunity back up. And I am all the way there with people in we just couldn't be in a never-ending cycle of boosters. I don't have the answer to that. Hopefully not. Hopefully there'll be something better, that's developed that, bodies and the immunity that you get less longer. But for right now, nobody can really answer that. As far as the subvariant, was there something that we could have done about that? Yeah, we probably could have did a better job of putting some restrictions in place when Omicron hit. But there was this myth that it was just like a cold. So even in the face of Omicron, CDC was peeling things back.
Well, hold on. It wasn't. No, the media told us, and medical professionals told us that. Now, hold on, because see, this is where the problem comes in. Because people didn't just come up with this themselves, Dr. Deb. They were told that this was very mild, and you know what? In some places, it really was. But I think one of the things that you and Dr. Knighton have really tried to help us to understand is that our baseline health also has to be boosted, if you will. We have to work on that. And I don't see any campaign for that. Everyone wanted us to get the shots and do this and stay home and have the lockdowns, which Dr. Fauci said we might have to face again. Okay. But no one's talking to us about, when you can get a Happy Meal full of products that can be microwaved again in 20 years. No one's trying to fill up our carts with vegetables and fruit. No one's trying to do that. And I just think that that's awful. It's very dangerous. I've got about 30 seconds. We're going to have a few minutes from you, Dr. Knighton, on the other side of the break. But in these last, 30 seconds, Dr. Deb, what are we supposed to do with all of this information? I mean, what can we do to protect ourselves as we come into this expected surge in this season?
Get this, though. The surge is expected because what it would take for us to prevent it, we're unwilling to do.
What do we need to do to prevent it?
People are not getting their boosters.
Okay.
The government and local and state governments are not going to put any restrictions back in place. Instead, mask mandates and all those things are being repealed. So the surge is coming because we know the reasons why, and we're not going to do anything.
30.
That's the thing I want people to really, let sink in. And then people can really start to look for themselves individually. What am I willing to do, or what am I willing to give up? My uncle passed. His funeral was on March 25th, and we weren't going to have a
15.
And I wasn't okay with that. But I'm looking, and I had to let everybody know he will be happy.
10.
We'll have to really watch things closely. We'll really have to watch things closely, because that'll be right around the time things start to go up. And I don't want his repast to be the, super spread event in our family.
Absolutely.
That's really the kind of questions we have to ask ourselves. What are you willing to risk?
I mean, exactly. So we're going to have to really watch it, everybody, as they're reopening. But what can we do to protect ourselves? Dr. Deborah Verholden, we're going to pitch it over to Dr. Shanita Knighton on the other side of the break. And then after a couple of minutes, we are going to go talk to Dwight McKee as we're fighting for democracy in Ukraine. Shouldn't we be fighting for it here? What about our voting rights? What about that? Yeah, because there's some issues that we need to work on here. What do you think? 773-763-9278. And of course, meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there. And everybody, Robert, Jewel, and everybody, including my new sweetie from Brazil. Hey, what you should do is share the show. Just share it with one person, okay? And on my official Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook, share the show with just one person. Just one. That's all you need to do. Oh, you can do it with more. Just one. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Lovely ladies. Okay. Are you all there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, great. I'm going to come to you, Dr. Knight, and I'm going to give you 3.5 minutes. And then we're going to hop over to Dwight so we can talk about, pardon me, Ukraine. Oh, gosh, I'm exhausted already. Ugh.
Dr. Knight, we got to work on your brain, girl.
I know. It's the craziest thing, because while my goofy self had literally sent a Zoom invite with both me and you on it and didn't send the email to you. Looking like a goofy at 4 o'clock. I did. I sent a follow-up email saying when you was available. I had a good time yesterday with the N-Nice people. I did. Like, it was me, Carl, and Heatherland, and then it was somebody named Tanya that popped in, too. We had a good time.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah. So now I can imagine your availability has changed. So just let me, we have to talk about when you're free.
Okay.
Mr. McKee is on the line.
Okay.
I'm real bad, Dr. Dan, but I'll be needing my NIH-funded folks, or consistent track record folks, over I would say the people that might just be in the titles by name to be reviewing my stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
I'm here.
Praise the Lord. We got Dr. Deb there.
Right, that voice, he does it for me every time.
Good morning.
And we got Dr. Knighton here.
He's been a DJ, an MC, everything. An announcer, everything.
How you doing, Dr. D?
All the ladies lined up.
He said, good morning. And how's that younger than yours?
Wonderful.
How's that grandyoung of yours?
She is something else. She's just something else. She's almost 7 months now.
Wow.
7 months. Santita's getting really old. India's almost 7 months.
I mean,
Wow.
You can mark your time by children. You see time marches on. It really, really does.
Yep.
It goes on.
Boy, y'all really read this thing.
Like,
Dr. D, y'all really read this thing. This COVID thing. It has been the most confusing thing I've ever seen.
Back in 1 minute.
Okay, stand by, everybody.
We know exactly what to do. They can point to all the reasons why we're going to have a surge. And almost all of it can be intervened on. We're just simply not going to do it.
Dr. Knighton? Shanina?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to have 3 minutes. And so if you hear me, that means we're going to wrap it up because I need to shift over to Dwight. But I wanted you, what can we do to protect ourselves? I know you feel like I'm sounding like a broken record, but these are the questions that people are going to be asking in a minute, because these outdoor festivals are about to begin. It has been warm here in Chicago all week. I said, oh, spring is here.
5.
Time for me to put this wool and whatnot away. What kind of? This is Chicago. Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am free.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there, and everybody share the show just at least with one person. And then go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. That's my official page. Any other page, don't pay attention to. And all of my friends on the Santita Jackson landing page, please come over to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's the page where you will not get kicked off. That's the page that we need to populate. So we're talking with Dr. Deborah Holden and Dr. Shanina Knighton about the expected surge in COVID, and the fourth shot is not supposed, well, it's supposed to prevent you from being really symptomatic, but not infection. In the meantime, more and more restrictions are being loosened in most places, or in many places, let's put it that way. Yet, a lot of people are going unmasked, and they might have COVID, but they can still spread COVID, no matter what their vaccination status. And we need to know, Dr. Shanina Knighton, what we can do to protect ourselves. Because it seems like COVID is in the rear view mirror, but it's still here.
It is still here. Good morning. And
Good morning.
I just want to say that we know. So I just want to say this has been different, okay? And I know that, for example, Santita, like we all have expertise, and from our expertise, we're going to give, let's say, our strong opinion based off of what people should do. So, for example, with a Dr. Fauci who studies infectious diseases and studies it from the standpoint of medicinal treatment, that is going to be the perspective that is given. From my perspective as an infection preventionist, having dealt with more than one bug, the simple things are the most important things that matter, and we are downplaying them. But hands are the number one way to prevent the spread of germs that lead to infections. They are the number one contributor to the spread of infections. So if you do not have clean hands, you've already failed right there. Without clean hands, you cannot put on your mask. Without clean hands, you should not be touching surfaces. Without clean hands, you should not be eating your food. Without clean hands, you should not be touching your eyes, mouth, and nose and doing a lot of things. And we know COVID is transmitted eyes, mouth, and nose. So that would be the number one thing that I would recommend to people before even thinking about a mask, before even thinking about distancing, okay, is to make sure that you are at least at first cleaning your hands. The other aspect that is being ignored are surfaces. Many of us are going to use the same surfaces. So whether we're hollering over a counter, whether we're sitting at the same tables, whether we're touching the same doorknobs, whether we're using the same elevator buttons, you should act as if every surface that is around you is contaminated with COVID, and that COVID is just lingering on that surface, waiting on your hands to touch it and for you to touch your own self in your eyes, mouth, and nose. So my recommendation for anyone is to make sure that they are cleaning their hands. The other aspect that I want to bring up is that this virus does not behave like any other virus that I've seen that we've had to practice prevention for. So the information is being given. 1 week is, like masks will slow the spread. Oh, if we wash our hands, will slow the spread. The vaccine was slow the spread. Just get 2 doses or just get 1 dose. Now let's get a booster. We might need a 4th booster. Oh, it doesn't stop COVID, but it may stop the severity of it. I get it. We've had all of these different stories, this, that, and the other, and people are confused. But I need to also bring up the fact that literally still to this day, it is unscientifically proven that we know 100% where the origin of COVID came from. But I need us to understand why that's important. If COVID-19 was created or leaked from a lab, this, that, and the other, which I'll be honest, a lot of people will think I'm crazy for saying that that's not a possibility. But as someone that works in a lab, has literally had to out ways to prevent bugs through the use of products, it doesn't seem far-fetched that something like that can happen. And let's say, for example, if the conditions had to be created in order for it to be eliminated, right? Which is how we treat things up under any disease that we focus on. It then comes down is, are we dealing with some sort of super virus that has now mutated and has lost control? And with that being said, my words to anyone in the public would be, is until we understand the origin, until we understand, the actual findings of how this thing is getting ready to go, is stay ready with your infection prevention practices so you don't have to get ready. Because a lot of the people that have ended up with COVID are not because they were intentionally trying to infect themselves. So if you know that you can do preventative behaviors, such as making sure you're still wearing your mask in closed-in settings, such as elevators, people want to talk on the elevator, and it bugs me because I don't understand why we're in a closed-in space and they want to talk, okay, where droplets are going to spew and none of us have any outside air. So I personally feel like that should be a rule or a law that's regulated everywhere, because it's somewhere that we cannot help but to be with strangers. So making sure in closed-in spaces you're still wearing a mask. Making sure not only are you cleaning your hands, making sure you're doing it for 20 to 25 seconds. Making sure you're cleaning where the thumb meets the hand. Make sure you're cleaning your fingernails. Making sure you're cleaning the webs of your hands. Making sure you're cleaning your wrists. Making sure you're conscious if you have jewelry on. Making sure that if you have plastic nails or long nails, that you're actually scrubbing up under your fingernails. There are simple things that we can do, and please keep in mind that only 3 to 6% of people clean their hands correctly. So it is no surprise to me, especially with some of the behaviors that I'm still seeing out here now, that indicates to me that not a lot of people learned infection prevention even throughout the pandemic, because this has not been the overarching message that has been shared alongside vaccines. So as long as we are focusing on test as a singular approach, as mask as a singular approach, as vaccines as a singular approach, and we are not addressing the many drops that fill an ocean, which is each individual's contribution, okay, to infection prevention, we are going to continue to fail during this pandemic. So please make sure that you are doing what you need to do as an individual.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, boy, oh boy, you knocked it out the park with that one. Dr. Deborah Fur Holden, you said, now this is the person we need to be talking to in the midst of this pandemic. You said, I'm going to bring her to you. And boy, oh boy, every time we see her, so you make my toes curl. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I doing this correctly? And then you laughed at me when we had breakfast, because I had all of my supplies. I want to be clean. I do. And more than that, sanitized. Dr. Deborah Fur Holden, I love you so much. Dr. Shanina Knighton, I love you and I appreciate all the work that you do. Dr. Deborah Fur Holden, Associate Dean of Public Health at the Michigan State University School of Medicine, brilliant epidemiologist, and of course the registered nurse, the infection preventionist, and the research scholar from Case Western Reserve University, Dr. Shanina Knighton. I'm sending you all much love, but stay right there, Drs. Knighton and Fur Holden, because I know you want to hear Dr. D. We got 2 Dr. Ds on here with us today. Dwight McKee, everybody's been waiting to hear from you for days and days and days, because we are trying to wend our way through this Ukraine-Russian conflict and NATO. But we're also, at the same time, Dwight, as we are really trying to fight for democracy over there, we're still fighting for democracy over here. Ben Jealous, the former head of the NAACP, wrote a wonderful piece in which, he pulled out some of the old news clips of Black Americans about the fight that we had about going into the Second World War. So this one was entitled, "Should I Sacrifice to Live Half American?" Because of segregation. And of course, Black Americans didn't really enjoy our full citizenship rights until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed. And it was gutted. A key element of it was gutted by this present Supreme Court. And Chief Justice John Roberts, of course, wrote the opinion. And this is when you see how important our voting rights are, because he said, "Look, we have a Black president now. It's a different it's a different America. You don't need pre-clearance, where we have had historically, wherever we have had racist attacks upon our right to vote, you would have to send those counties, those areas that had that evidence, you would have to send it to Washington, and they would have to be pre-cleared before an election could be held there. That's over now, and you're seeing the right wing gerrymander the majority of people out of power. But we're not. That fight is not one that we're even discussing. We are discussing what's happening in Ukraine. So, what do you think about that, Dwight? Even as we see headlines that say, at least in America, that the world is united on Ukraine. But if you go to Al Jazeera, they say the world is united on Ukraine, but divided on America. Many people have a lot of mixed feelings. The president of South Africa is blaming this conflict on NATO. Well, let's first deal with voting rights in the United States of America. We're fighting for democracy
Well,
overseas, but not so much here. That's like taking a backseat. We're not even having that discussion now, and we should be. We're coming into the election season. I mean, like right now.
well, that discussion goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War when Christmas Attucks was the first one to take a bullet for the revolution at Concord, and died for the cause of freedom for the British subjects, who we now call Americans, who we call the Founding Fathers. But he and his family was not able to benefit directly from that revolution. And it extended all the way through the promises made, War of 1812, Civil War, World War I, World War II. That discussion has been on the table for almost 200 years. And yet we're still pretty much where we were before, is fighting for white people's freedom, when ours is always at stake and being jeopardized. I have a couple of fears about this battle in the Ukraine in terms of domestic policy. One is the inconsistency of the immigration plan, is that they're so willing to bring white people over here, Europeans over here, to set them up, while it almost don't matter what the black populations are going through in terms of their own disasters and tragedy. They can be going through earthquakes and hurricanes and civil wars, and still they can't be justified finding a place to live in this land, quote unquote, of opportunity, where the first time many of these European groups have a trauma, they put them on a plane and bring them over here, and within a week, they're in school, having a job, families are reunited. It's just so inconsistent. Secondly is that it almost sometimes seems like a pretext to bring more Europeans in now that there is a disparate situation between non-white Americans who will become the majority. It seems like it's almost becomes a pretext to bring other Europeans over here so that white people can always maintain the balance of power and the majority rule in this situation. I have mixed emotions. I feel very badly that the people in Ukraine are dying and are being killed. And yet there's a lot of ambiguity there, Santita. Is that, one, many of them are Russians, or former Russians. Secondly, Ukraine really had been part of Russia. Thirdly, the United States are the ones that violated the treaty. And fourthly, when you look at the NATO situation, you really have to understand why Putin is paranoid about the United States, who has bombed other countries, i.e. the Iran, i.e. Iraq, i.e. Syria, other countries for less defined reasons over long periods of time. So you really kind of understand why Putin is paranoid about having the Ukraine as a NATO country. So in terms of the emotional situation that we see, we feel sorry for the children. We want to help the children. We want to deliver the children. But yet we have children of our own who they also have aspirations and dreams and want to live great lives. And so the dilemma is, do we love other children more than we love ourselves? And are other children more deserving of a great life than our own children? That is the dilemma of being a Black American, is do you have to choose them at the expense of ourselves?
Well, do you sense a tension in Black America? We certainly see it in the global South. I was reading an article from the Associated Press in which they said that the Russian footholds in the Middle East and Africa raise a threat to NATO because, of course, Russia has really solid relationships throughout Africa, throughout most of the world, quite frankly, with China. And even the South African president blames NATO for Russia's war with Ukraine. The president of Uganda said, look, we appreciate the style of the Chinese, their diplomacy style, much more than we do the West. So, I mean, and we're not hearing that conversation. And everybody, I've tried to bring that to you because I wanted you to know we're 4.5% of the world. I want you to know what the rest of the world are saying. We have to be very, very careful, Dwight. We need to understand what the rest of the world are saying, and before they also begin to point out our own contradictions. Like you said, we have children here who have hopes and dreams and aspirations. You do have a global South inside of the United States. You've got poverty that rivals that of those countries in the global South. Right here. Go to Appalachia, whether it's white or Black, you can see it. I mean, these coal miners work every day, and they are starving and sick. So many of them. Or they've been hooked on opioids because, the Sacklers and other corporate families decided to dump all these pills on these people to numb them out as they went to work. We have to really, I think that, Dwight, I think that this is beginning to, a lot of people have a lot of questions about this because they see the contradictions. And what you want to do is not just look at a contradiction, Dwight, you want to resolve it, And
you have investments in Africa, in the third world, by the Russians and by the Chinese, while the European countries, their mentality is still to colonize and exploit, and to keep those countries at a disadvantage. And they don't invest most in those countries in terms of infrastructure. They don't invest in those countries in terms of healthcare. Whereas the Russians and the Chinese have real investment in the third world countries. And so where does their allegiance lie? And where should their allegiance lie? It's very interesting about the West is they believe somehow that the elevation of themselves is so significant that it should be beneficial by extension or by proxy for the rest of the world. is that if they're saved, if they're prosperous, if they're doing well, then that's the ultimate goal and ultimate prize. And all of us should be excited and happy in their behalf for them. That our whole goal in life is to maintain their way of life and their prosperity. And whether it's shared, and it usually is not, or whether it's we have benefits in it and we usually don't, it does not matter. I look at the situation with Haiti and France, where France exploited Haiti for 150 years, took all the wealth out of Haiti. France prospers. Haiti starves to death, literally. And nobody is addressing that, and nobody will address that. And somehow we should feel great for France, and Haiti should go undealt with. It's a phenomenon. So I guess our dilemma, saying in a real sense, is should we be involved in this battle at all? Should we send our kids to fight for somebody else's democracy or somebody else's freedom, while every day in America, around the country, our freedoms and rights are being taken away?
Well, let me ask you this. Or what about this alternative? What about demanding, as Attorney Gerald Griggs from the NAACP in Atlanta has been doing? He's been pushing the idea that you need to make the president sign a voting rights, an executive order on voting rights, an executive order on police reform, even though executive orders only last the lifetime of the presidency of the president who signs them. This freedom is not given to you. You have to fight for it. You really do. And part of the fight is, we're about to have elections in Chicago in June. We are going to have someone we're going to get a new congressman, basically, in June. That's not being talked about. It's not being talked about. And even New Hampshire is signing voter suppression laws. So this is not for black folks only. What should we be doing to fight for our democracy here while we are looking to, because we're supporting the people of Ukraine. Billions of dollars we've given them. What should we be doing right here, Dwight? I've got about 2.5 minutes.
Billions of dollars within a week by executive order. I mean, the same senators who stalled on our resolution in terms of giving us these funding proposals, within a week gave these European people who, I love them, they're real people, but they're not part of our system. They don't pay taxes here. Gave them billions and billions and billions of dollars for self-defense and to be able to maintain and sustain themselves. I think that we have to realize two things. One is that our fight is not over. We're going to always be fighting. And secondly, that we can't trust these people inherently to operate in our interests, because this is a spectrum battle. Is they love their people who essentially are their cousins more than they love us. And they're willing to sacrifice us in behalf of their cousins. They have Ukrainian village here. Ukrainian village here are the Ukrainians, many of who left the Ukraine to come here, and now they have a whole piece of Chicago.
Well, my question, though, is in less than a minute, because while we are here, because we are going nowhere, what should we do to fight for our voting rights? Because we're not going to go anywhere. I mean, this is it for us. It really is. So what should we do?
Is that one, that's the point I was making, Santita.
1 minute.
That their first love is not us, it's their cousin. And so we assume that we are equal to them in their attitude, whereas they don't They don't think about us like we think about them. So one, we have to change our thinking to understand that we are fighting these people who, in their minds, want to always maintain superiority and control. And so we have to demonstrate, we have to boycott, we have to vote, we have to do everything that we can do to make sure that our rights are protected. We have to make the president, when he can, do the executive orders, when he can get those votes that he needs from Congress, that he, by executive executive action, can sign those legislations that we need to have signed. We need to be in the courts. We need to be in the streets. We have to be everywhere we need to be to fight to protect our rights and our freedom.
Amen to that.
Because they're always going to be in jeopardy. We can never be comfortable.
All right.
We can never relax. We have to be ever busy in these situations.
Dr. D, Dwight McKee. What about Brittany Griner, everybody? Coming up in just in a few minutes. What about her? When will she come home? And why has she been locked away? Has she been held hostage? Newsweek magazine said she's a hostage. She's not a hostage. She broke a law, and she's been taken into detention. But how can we get her home? While we're dealing with hostilities with Russia. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dwight, thank you so much.
Okay.
We got to talk about this Brittany Griner, bless her heart. She's going to be...
That was good, Dwight.
Now, I know you loved it. You were silent the whole time. What?
I ain't got nothing to say. He said everything that I would have thought about, and then some, and then everything I would have had questions about. He answered. So
what did you like? I mean, because I'm going to have to let you all go very quickly because we have to get the panelists in.
I was gonna be leaving in a second anyway, but I really
hate that.
But no, just thinking about, just the whole fact that when you even think about taxes and you really think about the stance of us being concerned about somebody that really ain't concerned about us, and then the fact that we really should be focused on our own issues. And I bet you it's so many people that can tell you about there being a war on Ukraine, but can't tell you about the issues that we face in our own country regarding voting rights. And I bet you if they were to poll somebody in regards to which one they know more about, they're going to know more about what's going on in somebody else's country than what's going on in our own backyard.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was very well pointed and stated, and it's accurate, And even too, when we think about the one thing that I appreciate about Dwight is being able to give a balanced perspective, right? Which means that there's so many people that are, Russia is so bad, Russia is so bad, Russia is so bad. But being able to provide the perspective of, well, why is Russia mad? Why is Russia upset? What is it that maybe we did to contribute to the problem? And a lot of times we're only hearing one side of the story. And so for him to be able to give listeners, including myself, that balanced thought of why, things are the way that they are, it brings up a lot of other points. We should be protesting about why our tax dollars spent over there when we got all of these issues in our own country. When we're talking about healthcare, when we're talking about they cutting funding dollars for COVID now, it's so many things that we should be concerned about that we're just kind of turning the other cheek and really ignoring.
Mm-hmm.
And see, in our mind, we're all Americans, but that's not how they think. The people in Ukraine are their cousins. They love them more than they love the people on the South Side.
You know what? And understanding that, I understand that. That having been said, that's not my problem, because they can do whatever they want to do. I'm still going to fight for myself and fight for my rights, because I know what I did to build this country, and I know what I'm owed. I know what I'm due. That having been said, I think that we need to understand that. I think we need to understand that part of it. But I think that we also because when you think about our leaders, Dwight, they have given us the gift of restoration. Because while you have people who still think you're 3/5 human and they're 7/5 human, when you still have that kind of thinking deeply embedded in the American psyche, you have to fight extra hard to get those who are disenfranchised. And I have to put indigenous people in that too, to fight for yourself.
But it becomes your problem when they take your tax money.
I agree. I agree, but then you still have to fight back. You have to fight back. You have to fight. So that's why I'm saying, at this time, while we have got, you're absolutely right, because I bring that perspective forward. I bring forward the perspective of the South African president who is saying, wait a minute, NATO did this. I bring forth the perspective of the Ugandan president who said, no, China deals with us differently. We like their style of diplomacy in Africa. I try to bring that here. In the meantime, we are Black people in the United States of America who ain't going nowhere, and we need our voting rights. And while we have people who believe that we are less than,
but they cutting our kids' meals.
No, it's not a but. It's not a but. They are doing that, and we have to fight them on that. That's what our parents did.
Yeah,
you gotta fight.
They're cutting our babies' meals in June.
And wait a minute, and giving it to Ukraine, and giving it to, more than that, the military-industrial complex. That's why I had Wnba Governor on here yesterday.
Children are joining the army and going over there fighting for them.
And alongside Nazis, alongside neo-Nazis.
That's correct. So I think that to be educated to know that they're fighting for somebody who is not in their interest even to join the army. And that's
why I'm saying to you, I try to give people information, but even with that, because at 18, all American boys have to make themselves available to the draft. That having been said, you still, while we're caught up in this matrix, we still have to fight. Period.
Yeah, okay, Santita, I'm sorry to interrupt. Don't get me started on what happened when my son, when he turned 18, had to make himself eligible for the draft. Please don't get me started on that. I'm sorry, I'm going back on you.
No. I mean, it's real, but this is going back to something that we dealt with in the Second World War. That was the fight then, and I'm so glad Ben Jealous posted one of those articles. That's why it's important for us to understand history and be very, very connected to it. Because we just don't know it. So, I mean, I'm not pushing back against you, Dwight. I'm saying that we can't disaggregate anything. We have to bring all of these arguments and pieces to the table. Thank you, Paul. We have to bring everything to the table. And so that we can really tease all of this out.
And I'm saying part of the fight is you have to understand what the fight is about. And if you are operating off the wrong premise, if your premise is we're all Americans, we're all in this together, that's the wrong premise. Even aside from
30
is that so you're joining the army because we're all Americans and we ought to be all we can be. And you think that your fight is a productive fight when what they're doing in their mind is they're protecting their cousins at your expense.
Dwight, I got it, but I'm going to have to let you go because I need these two lines, and I need to pronounce. CK, I'm going to let you introduce the guest. I love you. I got to go. Thank you. I lost a couple of lines. Okay, thank you. All right, everybody.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
More and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta say to children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jackson Show. Let's talk about Brittany Griner. That's right, the legendary Wnba player, one of the best in the world, who is now in detention in Russia. She apparently was leaving Russia, coming back to the United States, having done her postseason work, if you will. Unfortunately, too many women athletes have to go overseas, particularly those in the WNBA. That's also criminal, in order to make the money that they cannot make in the United States. So Newsweek says that she is being held hostage. That is not true. So we're going to talk through all of this and figure out how we can get her home while we are in the midst of basically effectively a war with Russia. That's what it is. And so how do you negotiate with people when you are at war with them, when you have hostilities with them? Something to think about, everybody. And a lot of people have different approaches to this. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And I want you to meet my Morning Stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook and my Santita Jackson YouTube channel on YouTube. Everybody get on over there and please like and subscribe on YouTube and like and share on Facebook. And please, everybody, share the show with somebody today. I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Call me. Let's talk about Brittany Griner with this fantastic panel that Attorney C.K. Hoffler and I have pulled together. So let's get right to it, everybody. Get some of these headlines in. Chicago will have a high of 44 degrees and rain. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 47 degrees, mostly cloudy. In the Wnba today, the Bulls will be playing the Suns. It's March Madness, everybody. March Madness. Just some of the scores. Kansas, 83. Texas Southern, 56. Murray State, 92. San Francisco, 87. Baylor, 85. Norfolk State, HBCU, 49. Memphis, Penny Hardaway School, 64. And Boise State, 53. Have you picked your brackets, everybody? Have you picked your brackets? Oh, boy. It's going to be an exciting season, everybody. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is showing no signs of letting up, according to this CNN report, with at least one Russian-made missile striking a location in Ukraine less than 50 miles from the Polish border. Elsewhere in Ukraine, the city of Mariupol is under siege and suffering 50 to 100 attacks a day, according to its city council. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian resistance is holding on, backed by world leaders who are condemning Russian President Vladimir Putin's aggression. And then we had a 9-minute speech from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who invoked his Nazi father. He said, "I don't want you to be broken like my father. I'm sending this message to various channels to reach my dear Russian friends and the Russian soldiers serving in Ukraine. Quote, I'm speaking to you today because there are things that are going on in the world that have been kept from you. Terrible things that you should know about. Let me tell you the truth about the war in Ukraine." He is one of, according to a news report this morning, 22 people, only 22 people, President Putin follows. And so that is of great import because he's extremely popular. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in Russia, everybody. The Biden administration is preparing for a potential mass migration to the U.S.-Mexico border when a Trump-era pandemic emergency rule ends. The influx is expected because officials are considering the possibility of terminating a public health order known as Title 42, which border authorities have relied on to turn away migrants. Sources familiar with the discussions have said internal documents, first reported by Axios, estimate around 170,000 people may be coming to the U.S. border, and some 25,000 migrants are already in shelters in Mexico. One still has to wonder what happened to the Haitians. So many of them were flown back into Haiti, the country from which they had escaped. Talk about two different sets of rules. Only about 1.7 million people in the United States, less than 1% of the total population, live in counties where the CDC still recommends universal indoor masking. While this is a positive step toward normalcy, some people are saying scientists are paying close attention to the uptick in COVID-19 cases in Europe and Asia as a possible indicator of what could happen in the United States. Dr. Anthony Fauci told CNN yesterday that the U.S. generally follows what goes on in the U.K. by about 2 to 3 weeks. They're expecting a surge here in the United States for the spring. Everybody, please take care of yourselves. You know, we have been trying to help people to gain financial freedom, namely in home ownership. So I want you to call Team Hochberg, because if you do not have established credit, if you have credit that has been injured, if you have credit card debt, so many people have that in these uncertain, really difficult times. If you need to refinance your home, if you want to purchase a home, if you want to purchase some of these 2 and 3 flat buildings in your neighborhood so that you can begin to rebuild your neighborhoods, if you want a reverse mortgage, a VA loan, all of that, please call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com, 56david.com. In fact, First consultation is free. Lay out what your issues are so that they can come back to you with a plan to eliminate your credit card debt, to lower all of your bills, all of that. That is what they do. There's a Navy veteran named Chuck who, with his wife Patty, retired and they were barely making it on their pensions. She called to consolidate their debt on their first and second mortgages and $30,000 worth of this credit card debt. And she was able to meet with Team Hochberg. They helped her to get a VA loan. She cashed that out. They cashed that out. They reduced their monthly bills by $500 a month. Over $500 a month. That's more than $6,000 a year. So everybody think about that. You don't have to struggle like this. There are some solutions, and they are the people. Team Hochberg can help you to do it. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com, 56david.com, and let them know what the issue is, or your issues are, and let them help you to work it out. So everybody, Brittany Griner, indeed, no one can argue with her greatness. She is just one of the best basketball players, a male or female, that we've ever seen. And she is in jail right now in Russia. And we want to talk about that, everybody. The American basketball player, 31 years of age, detained by the Russian Federal Customs Service on an undisclosed date. We didn't know how long she'd been held in detention. She was there. She'd been there since February, and it's something that we're just beginning to talk about mid-March. Where is she? How is she doing? Why is she there? We've got a tremendous panel, CK, that we have pulled together so that we can talk about this, because everybody is saying free Brittany, and we want to free her, but we need to know why she's been detained. According to Newsweek magazine, they said she's being held hostage. That's inflammatory rhetoric, and it's just untrue. She's not being held hostage. No, she was not kidnapped. She found a substance that is banned, that's against the law to have, certainly to travel with in Russia, and she's been detained. Now, let's be fair, everybody. And you can't demand her release. You have to ask for her release. We are effectively at war with Russia. We have hostilities. Our own Secretary of State can't walk in there and say, can you give her back to me, please? No, part of negotiations that we have learned, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, from Reverend Jesse Jackson, is that, number one, you have to treat people like you respect them, and you have to respect them, and speak to them decently, understand where they're coming from, and then you can negotiate. People first want to be affirmed, so we need to understand that, because we want her to be home. She's got a wife, she's got a child. I mean, she's missing all of that because she has been locked away. So, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, we have got. I brought to us Attorney Anastasia Sanat. She is head of the Haitian American Lawyers Association for the state of Illinois. And I've got someone who's going to really set the table for us. Jerry Riles, my first boss in radio, actually. And he is a tremendous podcaster and tremendous sports analyst. You've got to see and hear his show on Roku and Fire TV, The Rewind. We love you, Jerry Riles. And we have got Attorney Shannon Holmes, a sports lawyer. And I want to pronounce your name correctly, Attorney Lateef. Can you give me your last name, please?
Yes, thank you. It's Odu Ola Owo.
Oh, just how it's spelled. Okay, Odu Ola Owo. Okay, I'm good. And of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. You know what, Jerry Riles, why don't you set the table for us? What happened with Ms. Griner?
Hey, Santita, thank you. It's always an honor and pleasure to join you on your fabulous program, and you are definitely needed for sure. The story broke a few weeks back that WNBA star, Olympian, 7-time WNBA All-Star, and NBA champion Brittany Griner was detained in Russia because she was caught at the airport in Moscow with hashish oil as she was trying to board a plane. For those of you who may not know, narcotics, marijuana, whatever, is illegal in Russia. And so she was detained. It became somewhat puzzling is the fact that when the news broke, we were unaware, meaning here in the United States and in the WNBA world, particularly, that she had been detained. When the war was breaking out between Russia and Ukraine, the Biden administration told everyone, Americans, they needed to get out, they needed to leave. And WNBA players who, during their off season, which this is the time of the year, were over there playing for their respective clubs in Europe, in particular in Russia. And Brittany Griner was one of the athletes there. Unfortunately, she was detained after found that she had the hashish oil, and she was the only one unable to get out. When we learned of the news, Santita, I immediately knew that it was the stakes got higher, and that Vladimir Putin was going to try to use this as some sort of leverage because of her celebrity status. Again, 6'9", WNBA All-Star, Olympian, and she was a face of basketball overseas. Now, some might ask, why is she overseas playing basketball? Here in the WNBA in the United States, the players, the top of the pay scale is $250,000, which it doesn't even measure up to the NBA players. So a lot of these ladies have to go overseas to make extra cash during the off season, upwards of $1.5 million to play basketball elsewhere. And that's one reason why Brittany was there, along with several other WNBA players. Her teammate, Diana Taurasi, has been going over there, and she's made $1.5 million every season playing over there. For Brittany, this is her 7th time going overseas to play. So that's why she was there, to supplement her income. And unfortunately, I was surprised that she was trying to, some people say smuggle or, transport the narcotic. And having been over there several times, I was surprised that she was trying to get this out. And again, unfortunately, we didn't learn of her being detained until weeks later. But I knew once that news broke that Vladimir Putin, due to the war, was going to try to use that as some sort of leverage to instigate the United States to get involved with a war. Now we just learned that she's going to be detained until May 19th. The questionable stories coming out of Russia right now is the fact that some are speculating that she's not getting the proper attention. Others are saying that, yes, she is getting the attention by the Russian authorities there, and she's getting support. They're even, she's requesting books, and she's getting, books to be able to read. Her mental state and physical state are fine. So we're getting some conflicting reports coming out right now. Now, I do want to, in my opinion, Santita, I do want to set the record straight. I don't think, because I've been hearing a lot of people saying, well, if this was an NBA player or, because she's a black woman, we're not getting much of the press. I tend to disagree with that. I believe that if she were an NBA player, say LeBron James or a former player, and Dwayne Wade or Steph Curry, there's no question about it, this would be all over the media pages. But I think saying that she's a black woman is the reason why she's not getting the attention is kind of, in my opinion, not necessarily true. Because if this were one of the Williams sisters, Serena or Venus, or if this was Simone Biles, oh, there's no question about it. This would be on the top of every page across America.
But you know what?
To say that.
But I have to push back a little bit, because number one, if she were LeBron James or Dwayne Wade or Steph Curry, she wouldn't have to be working overseas. This is where pay disparities are a problem. So that's sexism. She is a black woman. Black women, according to all data across all platforms, are invisible. That's real. And because she is black, 6'9", and gay and married to a woman, that becomes a problem. Because homophobia is real, and not just homophobia. Look, the Russia of today is not the Russia we knew as children. The Russia we knew as children was communist, and they pushed back against the church. that Russia of today is an Orthodox Christian nation. So there are some things that they frown upon. So, there's that. And the fact is, we give men more attention, Jerry. You know that. She wouldn't have to be working in Russia. These women wouldn't have to.
I agree.
They wouldn't have to leave the regular season and in the postseason work a second job. This is such a woman thing that I got to work another job.
Yeah.
It takes a black woman, almost a year to make what a white man makes. That's why we have equal pay day.
I agree with you, Santita.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think it's more about her being gay. That's why I think the problem lies, is the fact that she is gay, and even in this country, as you well know, many people frown upon being gay, and the LGBTQ community, and so I think that's more prominent in this situation as opposed to her being a black woman. I'm
not making the argument I'm saying there are a lot of different factors here, but the other piece is, I'm going to bring you in, CK. I mean, the fact is she also broke a law, Jerry. And I want Brittany to be freed, but we can't act like Newsweek is saying that she is a hostage. That's not true. She's not a hostage. She's not.
No.
And we cannot act like America's got this big stick and we can walk into Russia with whom we are basically at war and hit them upside the head and say, give us this woman back. Are you kidding me? That doesn't even make sense. We're going to have to negotiate her. I agree with you. We're going to have to negotiate her out of this. CK?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Santita and Jerry. Thank you so much for, that analysis for setting the table. This is the thing when you're a black woman. You can't really say it's only because of this and because of that. It's all of the above. She just has a number, as Santita said, strikes against her perceived, not just in Russia, but throughout the world, here in the United States. I mean, she's an African-American woman. She's an athlete. She's tall. She's married to a woman. She's in a country that has legislation. There are laws on the books in Russia. As Santita said, the Russia today is different from the Soviet Union of years ago that we knew. And I visited the Soviet Union years ago. It's very different than it is today. But most importantly, and we don't know all of the facts, we just know the allegations. If she did have hash oil, if she did have cannabis, she's in deep doo-doo. Because we can't, for lack of a better term, because we can't just travel to places, and I hope this is not the case for her, and expect that what we can, and by the way, you couldn't travel really in the U.S. with that on you. You may not be arrested and detained for months, but it would be illegal crossing at the airport if you're caught with, marijuana or things like that, unless it's medically prescribed marijuana. But there are Russian laws that are in place. The judicial system, the legal system in Russia is dramatically different than here. They have more of an investigative system. They have, in a case like this, she'd have a prosecutor. She'd have, because these are criminal acts being alleged, she'd have a defense attorney. But then she'd have an investigator. And that investigator is the one that would determine the scope of the charges that would be brought against her, the evidence that would go in. So the systems are completely different, which is, having studied different systems throughout the world, we always must be careful when we travel to foreign countries, understand where we're going, understand the rules of engagement. She was over there, and I'm not blaming her. I'm merely stating this is what happens to all of us. She had been playing basketball over there for quite some time, multiple seasons. It is a travesty that exceptionally talented women basketball players have to hustle on the side just to live, compared to what the NBA players get paid in this country. But that's the reality. We know that the Congressional Black Caucus has played a very, very significant view on injecting itself in this issue, asking to free her, because right now, even though she was detained or arrested prior to the war that Russia had with the Ukraine, she's now knee deep in it. And the fear is that she's going to be a political pawn, as many people are when there are these situations, because in my impression, we could be cute about when we're at war with Russia. That's how I see it. And so she may
1 minute
that, but fundamentally at its core, she likely, Santita and friends and all these superstars we have, is could receive a very, very harsh sentence just for being in possession of hash oil and cannabis. The political dynamics surround the fact that she's gay. She's American, we're in war with Russia, and that she's black. She's a black woman. But all of that together doesn't bode well for her. But I wanted to kind of bring on Santita, if we could.
We've got about. You know what? When we get on the other side of the break, let's introduce everybody. Let's do that. Because we have a tremendous panel, a brilliant panel of lawyers who operate in the international space. And that's very important for us to understand. And Jerry, I'll stay right there. And I just want to thank you because Jerry taught me so much about radio and about engaging. Because we want to engage you here. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Let's talk about Brittany Griner. She's not a hostage, everybody. But she's going to have to be negotiated out of Russia. She is. And so we need to talk about why it is. I mean, she's like a poster child for a lot of things, but when you have equal pay day, black women have to work an extra 214 days a year in order to get what a white man of an equal skill set makes. That's why she and all the other WNBA players of every color are overseas working. Because after they finish the season, they have a postseason where they've got to make their real money. Now that's shameful. Absolutely shameful. She shouldn't be able to make that here. She shouldn't have to go out of the country to make her money. One of the best in the world at what she does. Are you kidding me? Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Girl, that's what made me hot. I started thinking about the fact that you have to leave the country to make your money. Oh, I said, this is the ultimate black woman problem.
Well, it is. And that's been the case for so long. I mean, when we look at this, and attorney Shannon Holmes, who does entertainment law, who does actually sports management, legal advice and counsel, and has advised, for years and years, decades, athletes, coaches, will bring a unique perspective as well and insight into that. And Latif, I think, and also Anastasia Sanat can speak on the international implications.
So I'm gonna toss it to you, so you can introduce them, and then we'll get right to it. Jerry, you still there, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stay right there.
I just wanted you to know that I have a series of interviews that I need to start conducting for work. So
Anastasia,
bring me on.
We'll bring you on as soon as we get back.
Okay.
Yeah, I an immigration prosecutor for the U.S. government, so I do have a perspective as well.
Oh, well, that's why you're here. That's why I called you, my dear.
But I do have.
That's why I called you.
We got an immigration prosecutor, and we have an someone who represents.
I was going to say, I probably like the kind of you as well. That's an immigration district.
I said former immigration prosecutor. Former.
Right. No, we get it.
We got it.
That's an important perspective.
Again, that's why you're here. Because you give that perspective. No, please. And that's why we marched, so you could get that job. So you could get in there and find out how things work. How about that?
Exactly.
I'm sounding like my mother now. How do you think you got that job? Why'd you get that job? You got that job because we marched, so we put you in there so you could find out what was going on. How about that?
Also to bring a sense of justice and parity and fairness. Just like when you're a prosecutor, it's important to have black prosecutors everywhere, whether it's an immigration prosecutor or not, because we want to make sure that there's a level of fairness and not so much disparity in the way that black and brown people are treated. And so I think that's a very, very important, very, very important insight.
Lisa Gross, I wish you would call in sometime because which I appreciate. You said that was a choice of hers to make more money in a country with a leader who kills at will. No one, America does not have clean hands when it comes to assassinating people, Lisa. So we can just stop that right now. Now, we participated in more coups, including in Ukraine in 2014. And we've been implicated in the assassinations of some of our iconic leaders. So, really, It wasn't her
minute.
choice. It's like saying that our kids go into the army or go into the armed services because they want to. It's called the poor man's draft. These women should not have to pick up another job after they have done the NBA season. After they've worked in the NBA all season, the men don't have to do it in the NBA. They rest for a minute. They're able to chill. They still train, but she has to go work. They all have to go to work so they can really make some money.
30.
Oh. So stand by, everybody.
Santita, I just think it's the stigma surrounding, gay in this country.
I think that's part of it, but she also had a banned substance, Jerry. You can't. The thing is, you got to.
I'm talking about the pay.
I'm
talking about the pay.
Oh, that,
the pay scale.
But it's for women. Black women have to work 214 more days. Period.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, we're going to get your pearl up before we get out of here today. But, we have got Anastasia Sanat, attorney C.K. Hoffler, before we bring on the rest of the panel. And we're coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And, of course, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody, please get over there and share the show with somebody today. And the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Share the show with somebody today. Anastasia Sanat, Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. You are the president. What do you make of this case?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, and good morning to everyone. I'm actually a former immigration prosecutor for the U.S. government, and so I'm familiar with how we operate our own laws, and it's similar in many other countries. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not about her being Black, it's not about her being a woman, and it's definitely not about her being gay. It's because she violated their law. She was at the Moscow airport on February 17th, which was a week before the war broke out. She had these vape cartridges with drugs in them. Now, she's been back and forth to Russia, just like C.K. Hoffler said. So she's aware what she can and cannot do. So she may have been doing this for a while, and they just decided to, quote unquote, jam her up. But that is why she's being detained. She's not being detained because of her celebrity status. She's being detained because of her bad behavior and her bad conduct. I believe sincerely that when you are an American, you have an obligation to make sure that you conduct yourself appropriately in a foreign country. And in this particular situation, she was not conducting herself appropriately. We know from reading articles, because that's all we know about, that there are other Americans who were not conducting themselves correctly. For example, the Marine veteran Trevor Reed, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison in 2020 on a charge that he assaulted a police officer in Moscow. There's also a Michigan corporate security executive, Paul Whelan, who is serving a 16-year sentence on espionage charges that his family and the U.S. government have said are false. However, in this situation, she's not the only American being detained. And of course, if Russians did the same thing here in the United States, we would detain them. And then we would, after they committed completed their sentence, we would then ask them to leave the country and never come back. So we're in a situation where Brittany Grenier knows that what she did was wrong. In fact, there's a news article that was posted by ESPN, and it says that her attorneys are not even fighting the charge. They're not even saying that she was innocent of this behavior. What they're saying is they want her out. That's all they're saying. They're not saying that she didn't do it. They're not saying that she didn't violate the law. She just doesn't want to participate in the hearing of the arguments, and she doesn't want to stay in detention longer. And I believe it was Jerry that mentioned earlier, they expect to detain her until May 19th. Mm-hmm. That's the process there. They can hold her up to 18 months in pre-trial detention. Does that happen here in the United States? Of course. it happens here in the United States. So when we think about situations like this, and you're correct, it's sad she had to go to Russia to make the money. Sad, absolutely sad, because there is a pay disparity. But the problem is it doesn't matter that you're a two-time Olympian, that you're a WNBA star. It doesn't matter any of those things. You have to conduct yourself appropriately. And when you violate a law, this is what happens. So I don't believe that they're not getting an appropriate coverage. Obviously, I'm on the Santita Jackson show talking about it, and there's plenty of news articles at this point. So I do believe she's getting appropriate coverage, but she's not going to do anything for the bad conduct.
Well, and that's Attorney Anastasia Sanat giving us her perspective, and we want to hear yours. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Let's talk about this. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, but there's also a broader political context. We are effectively at war with Russia. And so with that adds another layer. Of course, she should not have had these illegal products with her. And when you travel overseas, you really do feel that you are really CK, as everyone on this line knows. You feel like you are under extra scrutiny, particularly when you. Yeah.
Absolutely, Santita. In 1968, this is a very, very bad comparison, but I'm just going to say it. 1968, when we went to Geneva, Switzerland, the sidewalks were so clean, people used to say you could eat off of them. If you littered, the police would come up to you and say something about it. I mean, littered. Of course, we shouldn't litter here. But in the 60s, people were littering all over the place in the United States. And that's just a minute example to show that when you go to another country as an American, it's not about the American way of living. It's about respecting the laws and the tradition of that country. You understand it, you live it, and you have to walk by it, just like we expect people to do here. But I think, what about from a sports perspective? I think Attorney Shannon Holmes, who's been in practice for many, many years, an extraordinary lawyer who advises and counsels athletes as well as coaches and others as well. She does, commercial work and financial services work. But Shannon, what do you say about what's happening to Brittany Grenier and what perspective do you bring to this?
Awesome. Good morning, Ms. Jackson, and thank you, former Madam President, National Bar Association, Ms. Hoffler, for having me. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. I think, essentially, I think you guys have nailed it regarding the pay disparity. I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, back in, just 1972, when we were, when Title IX was passed, just so that there could be fairness at the collegiate level for women. And I think clearly America has prioritized its sports, with the NFL kind of leading the way. Most of these WNBA women say that they're only playing in the WNBA to play in front of friends and family and their supporters, and they literally have to go overseas to earn a living. When we look at the pay disparity, for instance, I think the WNBA minimum salary this past year is like $60,000, whereas in the NBA, the minimum salary this season, 2021 to 2022, is $925,000. So clearly we can see the great vast disparity in pay. The other thing is just media. I just saw a statistic just the other day where we're getting about 10% of women's sports on our media, meaning our television, streaming, et cetera, where we're getting about 90% of the men's sports broadcast across our media. And now this kind of hits home for me because I have a young daughter who's 9 years old, who's a big Skylar Diggins fan, one of Brittany Griner's teammates down in Phoenix. And she just asked me just the other day, could we write, this is before the Brittany Griner story broke, could we write the different media outlets to ask them to air more women's sports of all different sports? So I think our young women are even looking across the screens and seeing their fathers and their brothers watching sports on TV and not seeing the women on the screen. And so, I think we got to look at what is the advertising, the corporate dollars, what are they doing? What role are they going to play in prioritizing women's sports and helping increase the pay? Now, the really interesting thing is the collective bargaining agreement for the WNBA that starts in 2023 believe it or not, will fine these ladies if they come back from overseas late, or if they don't come back in time for training camp, they at risk of losing their roster spot. So we've kind of got an issue here now where the WNBA is putting these women in more of a fix with respect to their earning capabilities if they decide to go to Europe and Russia and other places to play and earn money. So I think we've got to really take, and when I say we as, the corporate, as a country, women, we've got to take a look at how do we get, increased income for the ladies here. And I think this issue with Brittany Griner is going to reduce the opportunities. I mean, families are going to be more concerned about their loved ones going over to places like Russia and Ukraine and other places to play. So now we've just really reduced that opportunity, that small window of opportunity that these women have and the ability to earn. And I think the other piece that we have to look at is here, the owners look at profitability, where there it's been reported by Diana Taurasi and others that the owners there, many of the Russian oligarchs were looking at winning, and they were willing to spend to any level to win. And so we just have a totally different approach there versus here with respect to women's sports.
Thank you for that, because I didn't even know that the WNBA players were in that kind of pickle. You've got to come back. We got to talk about that another time. Shannon Holmes, CK.
I just wanted to say this is why we always get the best Santita on the shows with lawyers, our National Bar Association lawyers. I reached out to Ricky Anderson. I said, who is going to be the best? And he said, one person, and that would be Shannon Holmes. So Shannon, I'm just so excited. I just had to throw that in there with your analysis. But not an NBA lawyer. I just had to say that. Along with Anastasia to that. I mean, this is just to have this level of talent to be able to reflect on these issues. This is what the country needs to hear every single day.
Absolutely.
So to round it out, Lateef Adwala-Owu, extraordinary lawyer. I call him a rocket scientist. Santita, he is brilliant. I've tried cases with him. He literally runs circles around everybody in the courtroom because of his brilliance. But he does commercial litigation. He is actually the president of Alliance Française here, originally from Nigeria, raised in Cameroon, started his career at Big Law here, and he's one of the foremost immigration lawyers in the Atlanta metropolitan area. So I just thought it'd be great to hear his perspective, particularly to kind of counterbalance or confirm, to be consistent with what Anastasia was saying from an immigration standpoint.
Well, thank you, CK, for that generous introduction. Anytime you do that, I look back to see if you're talking about someone else.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, let's, the reports that I've read indicate that she had cannabis oil. Now, if it's cannabis as opposed to cannabis oil, does that make a difference in everybody's mind as to the level of guilt that we can ascribe to her, right? Yeah. Clearly, she did something wrong if cannabis oil is banned in Russia, right? But let's put things in perspective. People are incarcerated for years because they're found with marijuana. Now, a legal system, such as the Russian legal system, where she can be held in pretrial detention for several months. In any other country that's modern, with a fair legal system, she will be out on bail the very next day. And she will have an army of lawyers. And they will find a way to resolve that issue. But that's not the case here. In a country where she can be used as a legal pawn, when she's denied access to diplomats and family members and maybe even lawyers. So while we can blame her for violating the letter of the law of Russia, we also can indict the Russian legal system for not having the kind of transparency that you should expect to have. That's one thing. Oil spoke earlier actually touched on sexism, and that's an important issue. I think I have a little bit of statistics because sometimes when you throw numbers out, it doesn't really convey the problem. Now, in Russia, they make about $1.5 million. Whereas the cap they can make here is about $250,000. That's 5 to 6 times what she's making in Russia. She's making 5 to 6 times in Russia than what she's making here in the full WNBA session. That's one thing. A male counterpart given her talent and skill, she's probably at the same level as Steph Curry or LeBron James. They pay 200,000 times more in the NBA.
Say that one more time. Say that again.
200,000. That is unconscionable. We cannot have that kind of sexism disparity between genders. That is just unacceptable. So that's the problem. And to put that in context, that is the same thing that drives people from Africa to Europe, to the U.S., where you feel like options are limited. You know, so she is in a different context. She's not unlike a refugee that's living in a country to go and make a better living place else. And in the U.S., that should not be. People should not find themselves in that position. And that's important. And another corollary of that is the publicity that's attending the whole thing, because Russia wants to use it as a pawn. Now, diplomats want to negotiate quietly in private. So the more interest, the more publicity this garners may actually be a problem for the diplomats who are trying to negotiate with Russia to get her out. And the more publicity this gains, it actually strengthens Putin's case, who is trying to use it as a pawn. So we should really be aware of the economy that we have there. So that's the perspective I wanted to kind of share. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, because we have to understand politics always, Shannon, figure into this. You know, they always do. But I think this is an opportunity, as you have pointed out, this is an opportunity for us to even elevate this above her situation. I mean, the fact is, women have to work another job. She is just like you and me, CK. Our work doesn't stop. And you got to get out here and hustle. And a woman of her skill set, and quite frankly, nobody should have to work 2 and 3 jobs to make it. She is at the top of, she's in peak physical condition. And the fact that she has to leave the season, a season where she worked her heart out, Shannon, and she has to do another season, she has to do 2 seasons. Well, more than 2 seasons, really, when you think about it. She's doing what happens with Black women and white women, quite frankly, and Indigenous women and Hispanic women. It happens to all of us. You have to work another job. That's not right.
Absolutely. And to think about it.
Oh, no, hold on, Jerry, and then Shannon, and then you, Jerry.
So you have to also include that oftentimes there's international play as well during the summers. So when we're not dealing with the Olympics, we're dealing with like similar to World Cup. So the ladies are playing international basketball on behalf of the United States. So oftentimes they play a full year or more of basketball. And so to your point, she has to play a lot more to earn. And so we just have to really reprioritize here in the U.S. how we're going to compensate our female athletes. Not only in basketball, but I think we have to look at other sports as well, where women are traveling overseas. For instance, track and field. The playing field in Europe is much more lucrative than here in the U.S. So we got to reconsider how we're compensating our female athletes for sure.
Jerry?
Yeah, I just wanted to say and add, we have to keep it in perspective. I understand there's a difference, a discrepancy as far as the pay scale is concerned, but we have to keep it in perspective and understand the WNBA players are playing collectively, and that's, of course, if they make the playoffs, let's say around 40 games between May and September in comparison to the NBA players. We know they're 82-game schedule. But we also know the popularity surrounding the sport from fan base to corporate America to global interest. And so those dollars, which have been negotiated, the collective bargaining agreement over years and years, they've reached those numbers. Now, Brittany is an ambassador of the WNBA, and one reason, along with Diana Taurasi and the other young ladies who go overseas, the scope of the WNBA NBA family is to make it a global sport. And that's one of the reasons why they travel overseas, not only to make, the top dollar, but also to expand the brand and the popularity of the sport. And we've seen NBA players attending WNBA games, whether it's Chris Paul, whether it's Zach LaVine here in Chicago or around the country, these NBA players understand that there's more attraction and more attention needed. And so they're trying to help build that brand, again, not only in this country, but globally. And for Brittany's case, she is an ambassador, a global ambassador of the sport itself. But it's going to take some time. And I understand it shouldn't take any time, but it's all economics and it's all popularity. It's going to take some time to close that gap as far as, revenue being generated. We look at the U.S. women's soccer team. They just locked in won a big lawsuit as far as pay discrepancy. It may have to come to that point, but I think Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, obviously who oversees the WNBA as well with the respective owners around the league, they are trying to close that gap. Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace, but he was in the forefront of bringing more attention to the WNBA and women's athletics because he even saw the discrepancy as far as pay is concerned. But we do have to, again, keep it in perspective and understand that 40 games compared to 82 games where the men are playing and the attention that fans are giving the respective sports, there's a lot more work to be done, and that's all I just wanted to add to the conversation.
Let me interrupt right here because see, all you have to do is look at Venus and Serena, okay, and see how when you just have people who are the best and who get enough publicity, the attention shifts. Venus and Serena were so significant for the first time. They shifted the finals of the U.S. Open to prime time. Prime time. I was living in New York and I was there that night. And Aretha Franklin sang the national anthem. You remember that?
Right.
Because they were game changers in the whole sport. The whole sport. And I'm saying that the thing is, we have different physical capabilities. Men can't get pregnant, women do. Okay? There's a whole lot going on here. But if you give the WNBA the chance to flourish, it will do that. This pay discrepancy, there is no way that it can be justified. There's no way that these women should be making $60,000 a year. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's wrong.
I agree with you.
I'm not saying that you don't, but let me just very, very quickly, I want to bring in, you all stay with me for a hot second longer on my YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page so that we can get some of this, so that we can really get some closing thoughts from everybody or just talk a little bit longer. But Chaparral, what is on your mind? Celebrations by us? Sorry we didn't get you at the beginning of the half hour, but we got you now.
Santita, thank you so much. I mean, I was just like listening to this conversation. It's so riveting. And I do have a comment about Brittany, but let me tell you, Celebrations by Us is right now gearing up for the prom and graduation season. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. And we're doing your balloon arches, your actual parties that we can do all of your treat tables as well as also your backdrop, your custom backdrop, chip bag, whatever it is that you need. Don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. And I'm sorry, Santita, but I was just so
hold on.
I was listening to this conversation.
No, hold on. I want you to make a comment when we go on the other side because I want CK. I need you to put a button on this before we go to the other side of the break because I have like a minute and a half before we have to have a hard out. Stay right there, Chaparral. You go get your comment in. CK?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate, we've heard all sides of the issue, but one thing I want to say to all of us who travel, when you go to foreign countries, understand the rules, understand the laws, and know that simply because you think eyes are not on you, that you can violate the laws and you can kind of slide by. That's not the case. More eyes are on you than you would expect. And we're living in a global economy. We're living in a world now that is not necessarily friendly and may not have been friendly towards Americans for many, many decades because it was perceived as ugly American habits when we travel. And while that may not apply to you, just know that there's a perception out there. So please be careful. Let's look at this.
1 minute.
That this young woman is not tied up in the political quagmire of a global war. But again, to the extent that she stepped over the line and committed a crime in a foreign country, we need to say prayers for her. Because if the tables were reversed and if she were here, like many immigrants encounter, the penalties could be pretty severe.
Absolutely. And, and be very clear. She's not a hostage. No. Is she a detainee? No question about that. And will we have to make a compassionate appeal? A passionate appeal for her release? Yes. But you're not going to go in there insulting the Russian people or their leadership and get her released. That's not going to happen, my friends. Okay? He's not Putin. He's President Putin. He's their president. And when you refer to him disrespectfully, as they did to President Obama, people are insulted. Stop it. Don't insult them. Let's get her out. And let everybody learn the lesson here. There's plenty to be learned. Starting with equal pay. Come on. Working 200 plus more days. Stay right there, CK. Stay right there. Got a heart out. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Stay right there. This conversation is just kind of heating up. Back in just a minute. CK, go on. Oh, you got me wound up. And remember, Chaparral's still here.
This is a great discussion. And Chaparral, I know. So Chaparral, and every time Chaparral that I hear your name, first of all, I think of your son, Courtney.
Yes.
With all of us. I think your son, Courtney. And then I hate to say this because this is so superficial. I think of your food. I'm trying to make my way back to Chicago to get some of your magnificent cooking and catering. I hate to just think that way, but I know that I have to work out extra hard because I'm just going to sit there in full splendor and just eat for hours. So, but then also thirdly, just your insight. Your political insight, your strategic insight, your worldly insight is so appreciated on all issues that you comment on the radio shows every day. It's so appreciated.
Oh, wow, CK, thank you so much. But Santita, quickly, before I explode over here, I want to tell everybody, the whole entire panel, Brittany is a ball player. So my thing is that she has CBD oil, which is used for chronic pain. Everybody thinks she's using it to get high.
Absolutely.
She's using this for pain. So she is a top athlete. This is a recovery for her. So I hear Attorney Sanat, and I love her. But the thing is that now we are condemning her in the public, and she has nobody fighting for her. My issue is that she is the world has been virtually silent. I don't care what they say a few news articles. No, this should be top news everywhere across America because this is an athlete. It's a difference if you sitting up here, if she rolled up with a pound of marijuana and she's smoking joints and blunts and getting high. I can understand that, but I also want to know: did she know that CBD oil was illegal in Russia? Did she know that?
Right.
Did she know that? So we're assuming, and the thing is that we don't know where she is. They're not publicly stating where she is. We don't know her condition. These are things that we should know. And that's my point. That's why I've been harping on where is Brittany? What is going on with her? Because America needs to know. And we would not be doing this if it was LeBron James or, like you said, the Venus or Serena or even Simone Biles. We would know where these people are. But the fact that we don't know where she is and no one is saying anything about it, I have a serious problem with that, Santita.
Well, I think that you have a lot of people who have their different schools have thought about how to deal with this. And I want everybody to chime in here. You've got some people in the diplomatic community who say, number one, we're in a very, very tough spot, diplomatically and politically. And so if we give her more attention, she becomes more of a political pawn. We don't want that. So there's that school of thought. Then there are some people who genuinely say, you know what, if we can just negotiate this quietly, we can make this go away. Then you have some other people who say, well, maybe there are some issues with the fact that she's gay and female and black and blah, blah, blah. I think that, you have you have to understand, not that you don't, Chapearl, but I think everybody gets this. When you travel overseas, a lot of people not only think of the ugly American, which is arrogant, rich, you think you're the biggest person on the block. They also, many of them think that we have a fallen lifestyle. You're going into an Orthodox Christian country, which is like going into the Bible Belt on steroids. And, the thing is, when you go into these places, and of course we should know where she is and we should know how she's doing. But when you go into these places, you need to know what the rules are so you can abide by them. Of course, as an athlete, using cannabis oil is something you do for chronic pain. I get it. But even, honey, throw it away before you get on the plane. You can't go through the airport. Right. You can't even go through the streets with that. You can't. Because you've got to assume that your room is monitored. Okay, you have to assume that when you're out of the country. The most heavily surveilled city on earth has been London for decades. So you can assume that your hotel room, that people know every hair on your head. You need to know that. So you need to even watch what you say. You need to watch what you whisper. And if you,
I think the bigger point that
and when you travel overseas, CK, you know this. Because you feel it. It feels like it feels very differently when you leave the United States.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Anna. I just wanted to address. Thank you, Mr. Pearl, for recognizing.
Anastasia, I didn't realize you were still there. I thought you had to leave. Okay.
I do have to leave, but I wanted to say very quickly that I do believe that she did know the law. She still violated, and you're correct. She could have made a better decision as far as not having that in her hands before she left. However, I think what is important is, why are we raising our voices just for her as the American, not the other two Americans? This is something that people need to understand. We're raising our voices because she is a celebrity. We didn't raise our voice when it came to the Marine. We didn't raise our voice when it came to the corporate executive. So we're raising our voice for Britney because she is a celebrity.
No, I don't. But Anastasia, I have to disagree with that, because the Marine, you're on a military mission. That's political. That's purely political. So that's something else, I do believe. And I'm not saying that you should not raise your voice. I'm sorry?
Assaulting a police officer is a crime.
No, I'm hearing you, but what I'm saying to you is that he's in the political realm. The corporate executive, these people are viewed as marauders and corporate raiders today. So that's different. It's not just because she's a celebrity. Many of us see her as our child or our niece.
But I'm saying we didn't know about the Marine and we didn't know about the corporate executive.
No, we don't.
Until we started to raise up.
No, we don't, because the culture itself. First of all, corporate heads have their own celebrity. It's called money, and plus they run the country. It's a corporatocracy. So there's that. They run the world, and then and the military does too. The fact is, she's not just a celebrity. She's the best. She's one of the best at what she does. She's well known, and basically she is a kid. So people are concerned about, when you see this little baby faced child, you're wondering, well, where is she? How is she doing? Does she need to know? Does she need to know the laws and all of that? Yes. Hopefully she did. I get it. That having been said, you are not going to swagger her out of detention. These people are going to have to feel respected. Right. Shannon, is that you?
It's Jerry. That's Jerry. I'm here.
I'm just telling you, when I look at how Reverend Jackson has negotiated people seemingly unreleasable out of detention, it's because he first went in there, number one, as a minister. He went in through the church, and he went in respecting people. We're sitting here demanding that she be released. No, we need to ask that. Where is she? How is she doing? Because number one, they have her over a barrel. Let's get real.
Yeah.
We don't have any power here.
Yeah. What I wanted to add, Santita, and you said the child. You said it very well. Adam Silver, they don't want, the WNBA and NBA don't want a lot of media exposure to this, because you're absolutely right. Adam Silver wants to go in there and negotiate, in a kind gesture, non-threatening way, because he understands the significance and he understands the culture. And so I believe that's one reason why it hasn't been plastered all over the media, is because they know how delicate this situation is, and they don't want it to be a checkers match. They know it's a chess match. And so his way of handling so many things, even domestically, is to handle it, diplomatically and approachable, that it's not non-threatening. And I think that's really the reason why we haven't seen much of this, is because they feel that they can handle this and get her out without all the media attention. The other thing about Britney and this cannabis is the fact that, we talk about pain, but she has had bouts with anxiety and some mental struggles from her days at Baylor, even early years in the WNBA. And it's known across not only the WNBA, but the NBA. A lot of these players, they smoke marijuana on their downtime because of the stress that comes with, a lot of these players have never dealt with this type of money before, the Santita. And so, the pressures that come with, playing at a high level and being paid top dollar, a lot of these players with a lot of downtime, they spend, they smoke, both the NBA and WNBA. And so that's another reason why I believe she was using it. And it's not the first time.
Please, and guess what? And so do their bosses, and so do these top politicians. I don't even want to hear it.
Oh yeah.
Give me a break.
But that was the reason. It was more therapeutic for her to smoke this as opposed to recreational.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Please give me a break. No, I'm with you, but I'm like, the hypocrisy is just, it's stunning. But I want,
Just to clarify, Santita,
yes,
a CBD oil is dropped. So it's not like you're smoking anything. They're dropped.
No, I understand. So no, we were talking about something else. I'm clear on CBD oil because a lot of people use it. But the thing is, Chaparral, if it is illegal, if it is banned someplace, that's a non-starter. It is just.
What I'm saying is that if this is her medicine, if this was for medical, even if it's for anxiety or joint pain, whatever it is that she was using, this is now medicine. Now you telling me I can't take my medicine?
Yeah, I am. If those are the rules, yes.
If it's illegal in that country, absolutely you cannot take it.
Chaparral, if it's illegal in the country, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Did she know that? I want to know where her handlers were, because I know she's not over there by herself. Where her handlers?
I am sure, since she has been playing over there for a long time, that I can't imagine that her club did not tell her what was up. Because these are athletes who have to deal with this kind of thing all the time.
Yes. She's facing up to 10 years in prison because of this. So she knew.
Right.
That's not.
Well, and there again,
the United States to come in and for some reason convince them not to allow her to spend 10 years in jail for her conduct. I would honestly be floored, because that is a diplomatic miracle, quite frankly, because how many countries come in and do the same thing here? If Justin Bieber got caught with marijuana or anything like that prior to it becoming legal in the United States, would Canada then come after Justin Bieber and say, please release him from prison? No, the United States would put him under arrest and he would be in jail just like Brittany Grenier here in the United States.
Well, I hate to tell you, because having gone to school in Washington with all these diplomats and their children, these folks get away with murder, literally. Now, there's something called mercy in law, and they can do that. That's the other side of that, Anastasia.
I believe Brittany was getting away with it. That's why she was doing it. But because of the situation that was growing in Putin's mind, they decided to use her on the 17th before they kicked off the war on the 24th. So there is some theory in my mind that, yes, I do believe she was doing this for a long time. And
she and the rest of her players, she and the rest of the teams, because they use this therapeutically. I mean, I hear you, and it's not just Putin's mind. It's the political atmosphere in which we're living. Because this is not one man who's going after this young woman. It's not. It's a system. And also people feel that they have order. And we can't let you break our order. We can't let you break our rules. Some people think that Americans have gone too far, that we're immoral, that we're amoral. Personally, not just politically. There are a whole lot of pieces here. But there is something called justice and mercy. There's something called being merciful towards someone. And I'm just saying that if you want mercy, you can't be arrogant when you are requesting it.
Yes.
If she's the first person who made a misstep or a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think I want to say thank you, everybody, and I have to leave. But thank you for having me, Santita.
Oh, you got to come back, girl, because
Thank you.
we got to get into it over in here.
Come back.
Thank you
very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Here, he said, but thank you for staying. I thought you'd already left. Otherwise, I would have gone back to you. Okay.
Yeah, I do. Today is actually my day off, but I have to go in to do some work. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Everybody jump on in.
Yeah, I think she was targeted. I think if she had been one of the first group of WNBA players to leave, I think this wouldn't even be a story. But I think because she was one of the last to leave, and I don't think this is the first time that she's done this, going over there 7 years in a row. I think she was targeted, and I think that was the main focus behind this. And the Russians, they knew. But most of these players, when they go overseas, they do feel that they have a layer of protection because they are Americans playing overseas. And you're right, Santita, there is some sort of an arrogance that goes along with that. And they feel that, that brand, whether they're in the National Football League, the NBA, whatever, they feel, even the National Hockey League, Patrick Kane had some, in his early years when the Blackhawks were winning, championships, had some issues overseas, and the NHL, the Blackhawks were able to, to get them out and sweep things under the rug. So a lot of these players do feel that they're protected by
because they have been, Jerry.
Their respective.
Remember the NBA got, when we could not get tested for COVID, they were tested routinely because they are in sports that generate billions of dollars. So it's not their fault.
Right.
The owners,
no.
They're part of a system in which they make a lot of money for a system, and they are protected assets. So it's not just them. They have been told and they have been shown that they are protected. I get that. I think at this point, why do these athletes have to work a second job, essentially? Because that's what this is. And that shows the sexism in the sport, and that's a problem. And how are we going to get her out of there? Because we're at war with Russia.
Yeah, but the pay scale, Santita, how much is a WNBA ticket? It's affordable. You can take a family of four there for $100, right? The NBA, those people sitting on the floor, they're paying $1,000 a seat. That's the difference right there. The Chicago Sky just won the WNBA championship over the Phoenix Mercury. I was at the championship game. The place wasn't even full. It was only 3/4 full. There was a late arriving crowd, but at any of the Bulls games, or even when Michael was playing, the place was packed. Those salaries have to be paid by somebody. The broadcast was on YouTube TV. It wasn't even on national television, or ESPN carried it, but it was on YouTube TV for people to watch the WNBA playoffs. That money's got to come from somewhere. And if the fans
absolutely agree. But you know what? But my point with you is that when I look at the Olympics, and when I see that many of us we watch the women basketball players with as much we give them as much attention, and we have as much fervor toward them as we do the male athletes. And I'm saying that if we had the intention of making the WNBA and the women's soccer league, for example, and women's sports, if we wanted to give them that kind of attention, we would do it. That is something that Kobe Bryant saw. And when he looked at his daughter, who apparently was a young basketball prodigy. And as he looked at these other girls, he said, I don't want my daughter. I don't want this to happen to her. I want her.
Right.
I want her and these girls to get a real chance. Because I am close to Lisa Leslie. This is not fair. And it's not fair. Because we don't give attention to girls who are athletes. We don't. It starts early, Jerry.
No, I get it. Both my daughters, they were gymnasts, and they're very talented. But I didn't I got involved with gymnastics when I was a little cat, but watching the Olympics. But that was every 4 years. I didn't really start to pay attention to the sport as an adult until my daughters got involved with it, and I supported them 110%, if you can say that. I think with the WNBA, the problem lies, and I try to push it whenever I talk about it. I think marketing obviously is the key, but part of it is the season here is from May to September, and you're not going to win a lot of fan base, particularly male fans, over during the months of May and September to watch women playing basketball when you have other things, and of course the weather change, when you have other things going on, the interest isn't going to be there. I felt and feel that season should have been changed from maybe September to May, because you're in the winter. You got the NBA, you got because people watch college women's basketball, and it's during the same time. I think the WNBA is doing itself a disservice as far as marketing when you put their season from May to September. It just hurts their product. So that's one thing that I've always was against. I think if you put it during the regular season with the men, you're going to raise more awareness, and you're going to raise more interest, which means you're going to generate more tickets and sales and all of that good stuff. So I do think that they're doing themselves a disservice by having it during that time frame.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's just a unfortunate situation, and I hope that some way, somehow, Adam Silver and the powers that be could get in there and negotiate some way of releasing her. But when I heard the news, Santita, I knew it wasn't. It's not a pleasant situation for her to be in right now.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be an impossible situation. I guess that's my point. If we approach it correctly,
right.
We need to not call him Putin. He's President Putin. Respect the man. Goodness gracious, and respect the people. Respect their laws. And then you negotiate with people. You don't go in the way that we are inclined to go into a situation as Americans. It just does not work.
Santita, I'm sure our diplomats who are handling the negotiations are well aware of that. They know to call in Mr. Putin. They know to speak the diplomatic language.
Of course. Of course they do. I'm just speaking of our attitudes. I mean, as we're talking about this, it's just, it's of course the diplomats wouldn't dare go in disrespecting the president of their nation. They wouldn't do it. But I'm just saying, the thinking. These are people, because these people are watching our news shows, Latif. I mean, they're watching us too. And it's like, and Newsweek magazine says that she's being held hostage. I'm like, are you serious? This is not just over the top. It's a lie. She's not a hostage.
Right.
Just stop.
You also gave Santita the example.
Well, hold on. Let me let Latif, because we haven't heard from him. Latif?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Yeah. She's not a hostage, I agree, right? But there's no way she would have still been there if they had not discovered interest and potential as a pawn in the war against Ukraine. Yeah, that's really what it is, right?
And Latif, I agree with you. That's why even when you go into these places, you need to understand what you're carrying, who you are, so that you can't send these people into these situations untutored. You can't afford to be naive when you're traveling like this. I mean, you can't afford that. And you also train people or let them know you need to be extra careful. Extra careful. Because this is where we are and this is what's happening here. They've been talking about this potential conflict for months. So you have to know when you're playing in Russia. I'm dealing with some hostilities here. So let me play my season and let me get the blank out of here.
I just keep this season. Yeah.
Yeah.
1.5 million.
Yeah. Let me do my thing and let me get out because things are looking. I might not even have a season next year if things escalate.
I'm sure they told them. But I mean, to be real, a lot of these players, not just Brittany, but a lot of these players, they have egos and they think I'm American. They can't do this to me. I'm telling you, and she felt, hey, I got this. I'm getting out of here. I don't think it's the first time that she's traveled like that. I don't. But I think that she is definitely. They all have definitely been schooled on what to do and what they can and can't do. It just goes in one ear and out the other, unfortunately. I truly believe if she had left, even a week earlier with the group of other players that were getting out of there, I don't think that this would have happened. I really don't. But I think because she was one of the last ones, possibly the last one to leave, she was targeted. And because of the crisis situation we're in, it was a prime time to get her. That's what I believe.
I you're right. Does this happen on the way in or on the way out of Russia?
On her way out.
On the way out, yeah.
And why did she have the oil? Maybe. Yeah. If she was coming to the U.S., where it would not be an issue, why carry it with you?
Right.
Well, she could have been, a lot of these athletes use this cannabis oil therapeutically. Not just athletes. A lot of people do it for chronic pain.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
So
I think what the gentleman's saying is that she could have dumped it there. She's clearly coming back to the U.S. that she would have been able to, get additional oil here versus risking going to the airport. I think that's what he suggested.
Oh, look, don't be fooled. Shannon, I agree. That's what all things that, unless it's a lollipop and a lifesaver, dump it.
Right.
I'm just keeping it 100. I'm like, really? Yes. Because you can't travel comfortably with these illicit substances. They're still considered to be illicit substances, even though they're legal in some parts of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And let's turn it around. Let's say this person were Mexican or Nigerian. Okay, let's just put those two coming into leaving the U.S. They would be called drug dealers.
Well, there's that.
They were trafficking drugs in the U.S., trying to traffic drugs. So, I'm just saying that we have to just be, and I don't know what's what. I don't know. Some people say she's been set up. I don't know what's what. But I do know that a lot of people do take substances that when prescribed by a doctor, are perceived as being legal for medicinal purposes and that help with pain management, all that kind of stuff. That's why we have an opioid crisis. But I digress. So, but when you travel to another country, you really can't look the other way because you are completely at the mercy of the authorities. And when you're caught, that's just, I remember, and again, the country is different now, traveling in the Soviet Union in 1982. Again, we're Russia today, the Soviet Union then. And I remember, and of course there were a number of Black students in the Soviet Union, primarily from different countries in Africa and some of the Caribbean, but mostly from different African countries. So it wasn't that we were, and there were maybe 5 of us black students on this. This was a student exchange, and there were maybe 5 out of 25 of us were Black. And we were followed, as all Americans, primarily at that time, of Westerners, were being followed because this was at the height of the Cold War.
So we were following different places. They knew, when we would get lost, somebody was always going to say, go to the right, go to the left. And we knew that. When we had our briefings with the American embassy and all that, we knew before going to the Soviet Union, again, this was in the 80s, we were completely briefed on what to expect, what not to do. Because a lot of Americans would go over there and try to, market their genes and get, do all that kind of stuff and be on the black market. And they said, okay, you do that if you want to, but if you get arrested, then you're just going to get arrested. And the sentence is pretty harsh because, again, this is at the height of the Cold War. So I just think that I don't know the circumstances. I'm saddened by it, but the solution for her, like we've all said, is going to be political because right now we're in a war.
Well, what do you think is going to happen? Or what do you think can happen? What is there a way out of this?
If I can jump in, I think I do know the strength of and the power of the NBA, and I think it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of negotiation and a lot of posturing. But I think at the end of the day, she will get released. And I think the two other Americans who are there, some type of negotiation will unfold as well to get them released, because those are allegedly trumped up charges that they face. But I do think at the end of the day, with the power that the NBA commands globally, that eventually she will be able to get out. But it's going to take some time.
Well, Shannon, Lateef, anybody?
I would agree. And Santita, to be quite sincere and honest, I think it's going to take some type of effort your father put forth many years ago. I mean, we're going to need some real diplomacy here. I think we're in the midst of we've sanctioned Russia to the point where they're reeling economically. Yeah. And clearly this is not going to be an easy task. So I agree with Jerry that the NBA certainly has its own way of doing things and its power. But I think it's going to take some real special diplomacy to move her quickly, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I think that having been said, because CK's been on some of these missions with him. I mean, I've tried to tell people, number one, Reverend is a reverend. He's seen as one of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's lieutenants. He has his own 60-year record of global service that's being acknowledged all over the world more and more every day. He goes in through the church. He does not go in as a political figure. He's political, but he's not a politician, and he is not wagging his finger in people's faces, talking down to them. This is because business is not going to get her out of there. You're right, Shannon. You need something special because we're at war with them now. And like you said, we are blasting their, we're driving them further into the arms of China. So you really think you're just going to walk in there because we can make money? Oh, no, we've shut their money down. We've made their ruble worthless. This is what we have to think about, the consequences of our actions, CK.
Right, absolutely. And Cynthia, let me just, again, I just kind of thought, and maybe it's happened and we don't know about it, and if it has happened, we probably wouldn't talk about it, but I just happen to believe that since I've been in the past 5 years, have been blessed to work with your dad, Reverend Jackson, on the release and securing the release of 2 American citizens, one who was held an anthropology professor here at Emory, who was held in a jail in Algeria, and then another young African-American male who was married to someone from Mauritania who was held in jail, and we were able to secure their release. And so when the diplomatic channels, when the money channels, because remember, people with money have money people that intervene. They intervene in the process and they deal on a different level. And in both those cases, when all those things fail, because that's what people pursue typically, the only person that I know of that can get people out of jail in very difficult situations is your father. And I've experienced it in the last 5 years, twice. where they probably would have still been in jail and been in jail for years to come, based on what they were being potentially accused of, even though they were false accusations. So I don't know if there are people who are looking at that. They should be. And if they're not, they really, really should be, because the diplomatic channels are failing. We're going more into war, it appears, that way. And obviously any money channels, with the WNBA and all that, that's what I say, money channels. People, the entities that have money what they do is they hire handlers to go and approach it, whatever. That evidently hasn't worked either. So when you get to this point, I always believe you should have started with Reverend, but certainly, perhaps they have to rethink their strategy. That's the best way of putting it.
Well, something's got to be done, because I certainly don't want to. I don't want to over there into perpetuity. I mean, because you see,
you mentioned people. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think people are sitting in jail for 10 years for possession of marijuana in this country. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more we ratchet up the tensions, the more difficult it becomes for her.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, one silver lining, Santita, you talk about the involvement with China and Russia, getting in bed with them.
No, they don't. They're not in bed. They have a partnership. Okay.
Well, partnership.
Remember, because they share a border.
But yeah.
And continue. We have to reframe our thinking. We're only 4.5% of the world. See, the global South, Africa has another view of this. Asia, Southeast Asia, they have a different view of this. And if we don't at least, I don't say align yourself with their thinking, but at least understand how they're thinking, and understand what America has done to create havoc and to hurt other countries. So when the president of Uganda says, no, I like the way the Chinese deal with us better. When the president of South Africa says, no, NATO is responsible for this. We need to hear that. We need to understand it. Because all of those pieces, and Reverend's friendly with all of those folks, all of those things figure into a negotiation to get her out. You understand what I'm saying, Jerry?
Yeah. It's powerful. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't get a lot of those messages presented to us. A small group and a small number of us do, because of our interests and our intellect, so to speak. But as a mass in this country, we don't understand that. We just wear that American flag on our sleeve and think, hey, you bow down to us because of who we are. But I agree with you. I think that, and I say China because of Yao Ming and his involvement, obviously playing in the NBA, and his political position within China. He could be, a linchpin in all of this as well, depending on the partnership that Russia and China, have and grow. That's in my opinion a silver lining that could possibly help lead to get her out of her situation right now.
But actually, to build on that, I understand that President Biden is talking to the Chinese president today. That's something I hope he mentioned to him, and say, look, we have this situation here. They love basketball in China as much as they do here. And that should be part of something that should be part of the conversation.
I agree. I think, you have to have all of these pieces need to be moving to try and be helpful to her. You need to speak to her family, because one would assume that they have at least had some contact with her, at least before she was detained, and to get a fuller picture, a better understanding of who she is, and but we can't demand anything. We have to ask. We have to ask. And that's something, unfortunately, that Americans are not accustomed to doing. We're accustomed to demanding and taking, and you can't do that. I can wear my flag and be humble at the same time. You know, I can be respectful of people and be as American as I want to be. But I'm telling you, it's a new world. It's a new world, and you're not just gonna walk up in somebody's place and disrespect them, or make them feel disrespected, or I mean, they have their laws, and these people will tell you that when you go into their countries, they tell you that this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable to me here. People go and engage in public displays of affection in Muslim countries, and then they get upset. I should be able to. No, you shouldn't. This is not what they do here.
Mm-hmm.
Respect that.
Wow.
If you want to go to a nudist colony, honey, then go to Tahiti or wherever the heck you want to go. Wherever they have that sort of thing, they ain't gonna do it there.
Mm-mm. Nope, that's right.
I'm just saying, just respect people. That's all. So, but I'm praying for her, and I'm praying for her wife, and they have a family. I mean, it's just there's a lot, but you know, a lot of people are incarcerated all over the world, including here. So, you know, we pray for justice and freedom for everybody. Shannon, you have anything else you want to say? Anybody? I thank you so much for getting up so early, Shannon. Thank you. I hope you don't hate me. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. I'd love to come back at any time. No, I think it's diplomacy. I think, you know, there are a number of significant issues here. Obviously, the issue with the pay scale for women's sports here in America is obviously a huge part of this, and forcing these ladies to have to go play in other countries where they prioritize the women and their talent. But I think we're just, you know, the crux of this is so many moving parts. Again, I think you're right. We just have to pray and hope that it's resolved efficiently and quickly. But I think all folks will be paying attention now when it comes to them making a decision to go out and play in foreign countries, and how that looks going forward will definitely be an interesting piece.
Do you think that this will help to change the pay structure in the WNBA? I mean, because Jerry makes the point. You know, they play in a season. I mean, nobody really wants to go inside, you know, during the summertime. I mean, that's a great point, Jerry. I mean, is there anything that the WNBA can do to align themselves more with the NBA to help increase their popularity?
I think they're just going to have to prioritize the talent over profits to some degree. I mean, the NBA makes a ton of money. They could certainly underwrite the WNBA a little bit better. I mean, Jerry makes great points. Only thing I would say regarding Jerry, the part on one regarding the calendar is anything between August and January is dominated by the NFL. Even the NBA struggles just a little bit during that time in terms of attendance and interest. But other than that, I think you're right. There's certainly something to be said about when they play. But I think the NBA could certainly do a better job of underwriting them. Hey, we've got X amount of women per team, roughly 10 to 12 women per team. It's not that many teams. I don't have the exact number in front of me right now of WNBA teams across the country. They could certainly, I think, in my opinion, do a little better job of underwriting the WNBA and making sure that the base salary for these ladies is significant enough that they don't have to make that decision go overseas unless they just want to. But they're literally playing here for us and for their supporters, friends, and family, and going overseas to make money in that sport. Or you'll find a lot of them have other professions outside of that 40-game season, as Jerry mentioned, whether they're real estate agents or training or other consulting or other things that they can get into that doesn't impact their training and their ability to play basketball during the season. So hopefully the NBA will take a different look at this and a different approach going forward.
I hope so. Latif?
Yeah, very, very well said. And I agree. Real quick, I think the game changer today, the game changer right now is the legalization of betting. I think now that you have so many people able to bet, particularly in the state of Illinois, I think that will be a game changer. And when you have these parlay bets and these, these other smaller bets that they have, I think it's unfortunate, but if you put enough emphasis on betting on the WNBA, I think that eventually will be a game changer as far as a revenue generator for that particular sport. But right now, it's on the ground floor right now.
Yes.
Sorry. Santita, I want to say one more thing. I think we've got to find another Kobe Bryant. Unfortunately, losing Kobe. I think Kobe Bryant's ambassadorship for women's basketball specifically was going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I think we losing Kobe, I think they lost a lot of potential. And so hopefully another person with that type of star power and resume, if you will step up at some point to be an ambassador for women's basketball.
Because he really believed. When his baby Gigi said, when somebody lamented the fact that he didn't have a son, his daughter said, "I got this, Daddy." Whoa. And he said, I looked at her and said, she really does. Come on, girl, let's go. When you talk about, because I have a girl dad who looks at me and he will say, not, "Why are you doing this?" He'll say, "Why aren't you? Girl, go."
Yeah.
I think the gentlemen of the NBA, whose mamas had them so that you could have an NBA, they can support women. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, Lateef, whoever, jump on in, before we go.
Yeah, I was just echoing your thoughts there. But yeah, absolutely, we need to do that. I'm a father of 3 daughters myself, and I've changed since they've grown up. My perspective has just changed completely. And everybody, one solution I have in mind is that seems obvious, is why not merge the 2 leagues? Obviously, there will be free arguments and all of that, but at the end of the day, that will be the quickest way to equalize things, right? So maybe people who are brighter than me should give that some thought, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Have one back as opposed to just the male and the female.
But no, I think there's so much that they could do.
Yeah.
When you look at those Mamba games, I'm sorry, when you look at what Kobe Bryant was able to do, you could see and feel the excitement at those games. You could see and feel the parents and people really getting into it, and you see it during the Olympics. Please, I'm going to beat it home or someplace to see the women play soccer and to play basketball, because these people are the best at what they do. And our women's soccer team, they have a winning record. Our men's soccer team do not. It's true. I got the numbers. Boop. I got the receipts. Know that. So it's they just need to be allowed to grow and flourish. And I just think it's a shame that Brittany Griner and all of these other brilliant athletes have to work 2 jobs. 2 jobs. I don't think it's right, because that's essentially what she's got. She's got a second job, which is more wear and tear on her body. She is playing at a professional level every single day of her life. That is too much. It's too much.
Quite a bit. Yes.
It's one thing to train and play a season. It's another thing to play a season and to play another season. That's what I'm talking about. That's ridiculous.
Great point.
It's unfair.
The real travesty, Santita, is that the player who is making $60,000.
The real travesty is that the player who's making $250,000 will be making $25 million elsewhere. It's a travesty all the way around. Period.
Yeah.
$250,000. That's not commensurate with what they generate. It's just wrong. Don't tell me that, oh, you should feel okay. You make this. No, nobody. I should be making much more money. I'm generating conversation. You have hard assets. You have soft assets. At some point, you have an 82-game season. I have a 40-game season. Well, there's a reason that women play 3 sets in tennis and men play best 3 out of 5. But I tell you what, most people in the world want to see Serena do it. So mic drop on that piece. You can say whatever you want to say. Everybody wants to see Serena play. Now, y'all can play. And I love Djokovic, and I love all of them. But Serena gets the eyeballs. She's the biggest player in the game. Simone Biles, I want to see her. I don't even know the males who are gymnasts. I want to see Simone. If you're the best at it, you're just the baddest one at it. And that's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Support them.
Yeah.
Don't let them get diddled and raped at Michigan State.
Right.
Come on. Or happens to the boy. It happens to the men too. Just stop it. Let's just get this right.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So,
but it goes back to what you said, how this country perceives everything. I mean, look at Simone, when she said she had the twisties and she couldn't compete in the past Olympics. I mean, she was getting beat up left and right in the media. People, saying, oh, she should be able to do it. Oh, she's just planning for her career after she's done with gymnastics. I mean, they were kicking this girl's butt, and she was like, I got to do what I got to do. And I'm not going to kill myself because you don't understand what I'm going through. But our mentality in this country is that, you do it and you give me more until I don't want any more, with disregard of who the athletes are. And if we look at and add to that, but with Simone Biles, even though she said I'm not going, she did go ahead and compete. She did. After expressing that, and after she went ahead and competed. So she probably said, like a lot of times we say, I won't say the word F it.
Yeah.
Let me just go. Let me just take care of this. Knowing that she was in severe psychological and physical pain. She's just like, because I think what she was saying is there are too many young Black girls who are looking at me and watching me, and young girls in the world who need to know this is what we're up against, but sometimes through it, you just got to go and do what you got to do just to shut people up. I believe there was some kind of analysis like that, even though mentally and physically she should not have done that.
Wait a minute, while the power structures look giving her the side eye. Like, right, Simone.
Right. But she still plays because she's bad to the bone. That's just what it is. Even sick, can't work, psychologically,
twisties,
impaired, injured, twisties, everywhere. She still plays in the Olympics.
Absolutely.
So that's what it is.
Right.
And I think to Santita's point, if we continue to highlight that talent, if America would, specifically would focus and prioritize and place some level of appreciation on the talent, then I think the pay scale would increase. And I think it's going to be a collective effort.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have to express our belief in these people, these human beings who are female. Okay. If we wanted to make women's sports big, we would do it.
No question.
We would do it.
So let me ask this question, Santita. Let me ask this question, then. Do you think someone would pay $1,000 to watch Brittany Griner play?
At this point, with the damage to her brand, I don't know. But maybe. Let me wait a minute. You know what? Let me give you this. I think of Reggie Miller, who says, the greatest basketball player I've ever known is my sister Cheryl.
Right.
Cheryl, I was a little girl when she was in college. I remember that. And I wasn't really into, my father made me watch sports because he said half the world is male. We are into football, But he said also, baby, I want you to know about Title IX, because my father was real keen on me really understanding women's rights and women's options. And so he would encourage me to watch. I mean, you didn't have to prompt me to watch Billie Jean King and tennis, because I was totally into tennis. But he said, yes, women can do it all, baby. Women can do it all. And so when I think of when I think of where Cheryl Miller was relegated to, she is considered to be one of the most dominant players in the history of the game. It's like the Negro Leagues in baseball. All of the talent that's been relegated to the sidelines, this time based on gender. It's a shame. We're poorer for it. Women bring something to sports that men do not. Men bring something to sports into any situation that women do not. We complement each other. And I don't want a ceiling on my goddaughter, on my goddaughters, or my nieces. I don't want a ceiling on their ambitions, on what they think they can do or should do. And you know what? If I felt that Brittany Griner was the best at it, would I pay $1,000, 25,000, whatever, to see Venus and Serena? Please, if you're the best, or if you're great at what you do, yes, and other people will too. Because greatness just cannot be denied. Greatness, yes, greatness cannot be denied.
Yeah. It cannot be denied. But I asked the question because that's the bottom line, and that's what these. You look at baseball, the amount of money. You look at football, the amount of money that these guys are making. It's because people are spending it to see that.
And I know we have been conditioned to do that. It was not. You did not. Having a courtside seat 40 years ago in a basketball game was not the same thing. You know that. The NBA mushroomed in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. The NBA has become that. So now a courtside seat is a whole different thing. It wasn't that 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
My life. It was not what it is now. And you know what? People would pay $1,000 plus to see, like I repeat, Venus and Serena. Because they just became so dominant, they became so great, they became so much that you just had to be there. Had to be there. So I'm just saying that if we decide that if we have the intention, Jerry, of making women's sports all that it could be, then you'd have you'd have tens of thousands of people going to matches and things like that. Yes, you would. Yes.
No,
because I'm going to go to a women's soccer game before I go to a men's soccer game, because the American soccer male players, they don't win. God bless them.
No,
they don't.
I'll go to both. I think basketball needs to learn about some tennis. There's a reason why I'll pay $1,000 to see Serena.
Yes.
If I have the money, I'll pay. There's no doubt in my mind I'll do that.
And before Serena, I did it for. When I could see Venus, because Venus broke down the door for Serena. Okay, Venus took those taunts and those hits first by herself.
Yep.
So people don't give Venus the points that she deserves. Venus did this first, and then her sister climbed on top of her shoulders, and being the big sister that she is, she stood there and steadied her and let her climb even higher. Yeah, when you're just super bad, you love it.
Right.
I mean, I don't have to choose between Luther Vandross and Aretha and Roberta. I love them all. People, yes. I want something great. What? I want to see the Temptations and Gladys Knight and the Pips. What? Come on. I don't have to choose. That's my point. We don't have to choose. We lose when we have to choose. Just even out the playing field and give these women a chance. Give the girls a chance. Cheerleaders are great, but our girls can do more than lead the cheers. That is its own thing. But if the girl wants to get on the field and compete, help her to do it. Please, cheerleading has become a sport. Good grief. It has.
Yeah, that takes me to my point earlier about merging the leagues, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted to go to Sweden for a week, I would definitely watch both female and male playing, and I would pay for all tickets. Then I would be happy to watch a WNBA final, and maybe the next day an NBA final, and pay the price as a whole for the package.
You're right.
So if you merge it, there are more opportunities to really figure it out. But we need to get this threshold. And so, is it just one match? Obviously, I want to watch the NBA match. But still, if it were packaged so that I could watch also a WNBA, more people will probably, buy the season ticket or the package ticket. It's just the way we approach it.
You're right.
To take those steps to make it happen.
Lateef, I think you're absolutely right. Because it could be, it would be even more powerful. Look, you need men and women to create a human being, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're all functioning at 50% power at most.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. I had to break it down. Yeah.
You open up another can of worms.
No, I didn't open. No, honey. Only a sperm and an egg is going to create a human being. You can come up with. You can say whatever else you want to say. Boom. Anybody wants to get mad with me? Mike. No, ain't no thinking. That's called biology. Okay. You do whatever you want. No, I'm not talking about psychology. I'm talking biology. I'm not mad at anybody because I accept you however you come to be. But I'm telling you, I know how this thing works. Okay.
Right.
All right. And so do you.
How they got here, right?
Yeah. I know how I got here, and I know how you got here too. Unless you were spawned in a lab. What is this? No.
Hey, don't tell that to Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner or whatever.
No. Caitlyn is Caitlyn, and psychologically, Caitlyn is Caitlyn. But if Caitlyn wants to come to me, Caitlyn needs to make 30% less than what Caitlyn made. If you really want to relate to me as a woman,
yeah,
because you would not have rolled out of those 76 Olympics, the super duper star, with Ron Terrain and everybody else, who you had some great Edwin Moses, you had great talent at 76. But because he was good looking, white and male and just, oh my gosh, and he was also great. He became the superstar of the Olympics. But if Bruce had been Caitlyn, Bruce, number one, would not have gotten the endorsement opportunities, and Caitlyn would have made 30% less than Bruce made. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Great point.
So don't talk to me. I was born female. And I'm supportive of my trans community and all of that. But let me tell you something. A job requires an apprenticeship. So if you want to talk about being a woman, you need to ask me. You don't need to tell me. Apprentice under me so you can find out what being a woman is about.
Yeah. How about
that?
My mother, may she rest in peace. My sister, my wife, my daughters. Hey, I take a back seat, believe me, because
you don't have to. Look, I need my mother and my father. They both give me complimentary lessons. I need them all.
Sure.
Okay? And the energy of Jackie and the energy of Jesse, they both brought something different to the party, and that's what people do. And Caitlyn and Bruce, Caitlyn has gone through the struggle, and I respect that. I appreciate that. But what I would like to see Caitlyn do is identify more with with women's struggles. It's much more than the cosmetic. It's much more than even the psychological identification as a woman. No, you need to understand we make less than men. So, Caitlyn, join me here. Join me on Equal Pay Day, Caitlyn. Because you would not be as wealthy as you are if you had been born Caitlyn.
Mm-hmm.
So now give 30% of your money back. How about that?
Oh.
And a lot of your opportunities, and then we can talk.
Right. We would have been having the same discussion about that person's ability to earn as a female in this country.
Wait a minute, when Billie Jean King in 76 was fighting to get equal pay, and she was the biggest person in the game. She had to pull Rosie Casals and everybody else off the tour and say, hey, you know what? Stop. They had to create their own tour. No, you don't have the right to do that. No, you need to come at me with some facts. So no, I'm not going to argue with you about what it takes to make a human being. It takes a sperm and an egg. But to create a person, it takes love. That's another discussion.
Yeah.
So, so let's just come with it on that. Yeah, that's right, Robert. It's facts. So, I mean, you're not going to make me apologize for being a woman. Get out of here. No. And I'm not going to make anybody apologize for however they identify.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need to do is, as we identify, understand, because even this young woman who's the NAACP woman who decided she was black, even though she was white, and the reason she was able to get over, let's keep it 100, she was able to get over because she was a high yellow black woman. Hello, with curly hair. Stop it. You know it's true. And she could, so the men were loving her. Get out of here. Don't get me started with this stuff. Okay. So stop. Oh. I mean, let's just stop. Let's just, but if you're going to identify as a black person, then you need to talk to black people and understand what we go through. And even understand how your identification as a mixed black woman is very different than Whoopi Goldberg's identification. It's a different fight. Phenotype matters. So let's not play. And in the midst of all of that, just respect people where they are. That's all we have to do. Y'all, we have talked for 50 hours today. Oh, boy.
I thank you, Santita. I thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, my former boss, I love you. You know I do. We've had some fun today.
You are always on point. Always on point. God bless you.
Well, you know, I take and give no quarter. I ain't playing.
Yes, thank you for the platform that you provide, and thank you for the opportunity to visit with you.
Oh, Shannon, you got to come back. Now that I know you get up early. Ow!
Absolutely. Happy to come back.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
Don't worry. No, you got to come on back, because we have all kinds of discussions like these, and I want people to be heard on this particular platform because it's a big one, and it's the largest progressive talk radio station in the country. And it used to be Air America when they were trying to create a platform to rival the big right-wing talk show networks. And so, this is the first time people have heard you. Right?
Yes.
And I want them to hear more of you. They need to know that you and Lateef and Jerry Riles, they know CK. They need to know even CK. They need to know that we exist and our opinions are here. So.
Well, yes. Thank you, and I'm happy to come back. And again, thank you for the platform you provide.
Well, I want you to come back. We need to talk about the Wnba. And
sure.
Just the fact that they're going to be fined, we really need to take that up. We need to unpack that. We need to unpack that, because to me this is central to what Brittany Griner is dealing with. She's working an extra job, and just because she's making $1.5 million, it's an extra job. It's an extra job that she has to make while she physically has the strength to do it. So I think that we've got to talk about that.
Yes, very short window.
Okay,
that's for sure.
Very short window, and she is a twisted knee away from that being over.
Yep.
That is correct.
So I love you all. CK, is it okay? Well, does anyone else have anything else they want to say before I answer my phone? My mother just called me, which means I gotta go.
For our love, for sure. Give her our best. Give her our love, and your dad as well.
Yes, he didn't call me this morning yet. She called, twice, which means
he got to go.
Oh,
yes.
Got to go. Yes, I thought you said the show was over at 8 o'clock. I thought you said the show was over. I called you. Yeah. What is it? So it's like that. I love you guys. Thank you, Lateef, Shannon, Jerry. Of course, CK. It's just, I love you all. Paul, thank you for a great show. Morning Stars, I love you. Can't wait to our ending segments be like fire. I hear you, girl. I love you. But much love to everybody. And many blessings. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.